And now live from the Man Cave, Studio B, that's up in the balcony up here. You'll see it in just a second. There it is. And the camera's moving. All right. I like that. I like that. It is an anti-genocide Sunday night conversation with myself, with Shane Trejo, with Dennis Marburger.
We're going blind tonight?
We're going totally blind. What do you mean? Oh, you guys don't have... I'm like, what do you mean you're going blind? I get it.
Can't see my beautiful face.
You wanted... so when I pointed for you to look at your monitor, you had no clue what I was pointing at. Exactly. Blank screen up there. But welcome to the show from Livingston County, Michigan. We're up here in the Man Cave. I love you guys. I love it when you're on here. And,
some
and
men,
I'm looking
men
forward
doing...
to
Men doing manly shit in the man cave.
Manly shit. I was telling you about Scott, and he's picking up his wife, this weekend, or as we speak, I think he's going. So Scott's been helping us a little bit with the studio stuff, but he's heading down to Texas to do some moving and shaking, getting his stuff up here, and his wife's asking. He keeps sending her all the pictures, like Dennis was doing secret pictures today to his wife on the food, but. She's like, it's a man cave. Am I going to be allowed to be in there? Maybe in special circumstances. Will you turn him on? Thank you.
Hello.
There we go. Dennis is on. And I got to clip myself back here because if I don't, I start pulling on my T-shirt. Well, welcome, everybody. I see the chat's already getting crazy.
Tonight we are going to be talking about America's golden age.
Golden age. I almost want to do that like...
Are you sick of winning yet?
Are you sick of winning? I don't know. It's almost become kind of a... It's almost become kind of a parody, like the hell's his name?
Weird Al?
No. The winning guy. I'm trying to think of him. It was
Charlie
2.5
Sheen.
Men. Yeah, Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
Winning. It's like, all right. Okay, yeah, I guess we are still winning, but let's whatever. I don't know what winning looks like anymore.
Yeah.
I'm so. I don't know about you guys, but I'm so. It's just weird sometimes, dude. I'm like, what?
It's disenfranchising. It's demoralizing.
Yeah.
Bamboozling.
Now we're hearing more and more about the insider trading bullshit going on.
The crypto stuff. It's bad.
The grift, as some people put it out, the current grift makes Hunter Biden look like a piker.
Right? Explain piker to the people that don't know.
Oh.
Hassan Piker?
Yeah. Okay. An amateur, somebody that's not doing very well, not making very much out of it.
Okay.
It's a hobby for him, but these folks have it honed to an art.
Yeah.
And then there's the not just the financial grift, but there's the attacks on our liberty and on our privacy, which are going wild. And then the attacks, the vicious attacks on people that were supporters.
Yep.
Who defended the current president against the actual never-Trumpers back in the day.
Yeah.
But now he's surrendered to the actual never-Trumpers. He embraces them. And now he's viciously attacking the people that defended him when he most needed their defense.
And, there are
dude.
millions of supporters
Yeah.
alienating them heading into a crucial midterms.
Right. He has smashed the coalition. And of course, he's had some help in that. As we know, in the Michigan Republican Party, we have somebody that's supposed to be helping to grow the grassroots that is actually trying to shrink the grassroots.
Oh, let's not use any names.
I won't.
Because we don't want to,
That's just the long and the short
have to
of it.
deal with the fallout of that guy.
It's very unfortunate. It's
Guy or girl.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm being facetious about not using names.
Oh, okay.
We've well gone over that whole dynamic. Did you send it to my Yahoo or did you send it to my Gmail? Shane?
Yahoo, I think.
Okay, that's I'm double checking.
So and then there's just a tremendous amount of human suffering that's been initiated by this administration in ways that they said they weren't going to do, and in ways which they criticized the Biden administration, and properly so when they
Right.
did it.
Right.
But that's why so many people are saying, while there may be several things that the current administration is doing that are either good or we're talking about during the campaign, there's so many things that he and the people that are running this administration and running that office are doing that are at variance with that, and are at variance with the principles of the Declaration of Independence, and this is the 250th anniversary year of that, and
Right.
and in violation of the restrictions placed on the federal government by the people of the states when they ratified the Constitution, into which all these people take an oath. They put their hands in the Bible, and well, most of them put their hands in the Bible. So maybe somebody didn't, but
Some don't.
Some don't. What's
yeah.
up with that?
But anyway, so that's why I think that this whole thing is spinning out of control.
Yeah.
And so now we have this dilemma of, are we going to help evil, or say nope, we're not going to do that? But then here could be coming more evil down the road. I mean, this is what was warned about when it came to political parties and even ratifying the Constitution by great men like Patrick Henry
100%.
and then George Washington in his farewell address.
100%. I have to go get my phone from downstairs, Shane, in order to sign in on that computer. It has to send me a notification on my phone. So tee us up.
Okay, I'll start blabbing.
Start blabbing and tee us up. We do need to talk about dinner and some disclaimers, but tee us up on what we're talking about tonight with just this genocide and the no new wars, but we got a war, but it's not a war. It's just another. It's like a I don't know what it is. We're coming up on a deadline of 60.
It's a middle. It's
go.
Yeah, it's a war, but it's not a war. We've won the war 8 times, and where the strait's open, but it never was open. We're gonna announce that the war is over right before the markets open, so that they rise. It's a whole bunch of different things that are highly alarming, and we're going to go through the economic impacts tonight. The buildup of the military, additional $500 billion per year is what Trump wants to spend to build up the military, while we're getting killed on inflation, all the different costs of fertilizer, and it's having ramifications on every different aspect of the economy. So the affordability argument that President Trump's going to keep your gas prices down, he's going to keep the cost of living down, which was probably the most powerful argument that we could have made to voters to try and get them to support Republicans during the midterms, when more than likely, usually, it shifts back to the other party. We had to really not screw up to be able to resist that kind of normal bounce back.
Yeah.
But now that you have gas prices up, $1.40, $1.50 from what they were before the war, you're paying more. People were already getting massacred with inflation.
Right.
The economic recovery was tenuous at best already. Now that is all the momentum is completely gone. People are saying, Trump gets this over with, we'll be able to get back to the way things were. But that's not tenable. It doesn't look like Iran is not going to let bygones be bygones after what we did, killing all their leaders and laying waste to the country, and bombing those hospitals and bombing their schools. The Revolutionary Guard is not going to let that slide. So they're not going to make this easy for us.
Right.
They know that we're in a rough spot, and that President Trump probably wants to kind of sweep it under the rug now, but I don't think they're going to let him. I think they want us to be punished for what we've embarked upon, and they're going to make this as ugly as possible.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a no-win situation. Trump's going to either have to make an agreement that is going to be hard to paint as a win in public, or just keep receiving this economic pain as gas prices keep going up and up and up, en route to an absolute bloodbath, and perhaps a historic Democrat victory in the midterms. This was Iran war is basically the only thing that could have resurrected the Democrat Party from where it was at, completely in the doldrums, hated. More probably, definitely after 2024, there's far more problems with the Democrat Party than there were the Republican Party. It seemed like the Republican Party had a lot going for us, and we're going to get Doge in. We got all these independents who were jazzed about MAGA. MAGA has gotten, MAGA 2.0 or whatever is, really looks like it has legs, and that is all gone. And I don't think, even if everything were to go completely optimally the best, we are able to end the war and get prices back down, I feel like the luster is gone, the trust is no longer there, and there's no repairing this coalition.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's sad because there was so much momentum, there was so much, so many good things happening right at the beginning, and such hard fought. I guess I don't understand the mentality or the thought process when it's so hard fought that you then go against the core values that you ran on after. It's like, to me, it's like a Rocky story, right? A heavyweight fighter who battles and wins against all odds, and then loses the title through bad circumstances, and then fights back and wins the title again. Except in this story, Rocky then walks out on the platform and lights his belt on fire and tells everybody to go fuck themselves. It's like, what did you just... Wait.
What was all this for?
What was the Cinderella story for? What were we fighting for? Because now you're going against the vast majority of the principles that you ran on, which was, and I like the way that Alex Jones keeps saying, and a number of the people, Robert Barnes and a number of the people like that keep pointing out that he's abandoning the core principles that he ran on, but people equate MAGA with Trump, but that's the train. They go, you're off the Trump train. No, I'm still on the MAGA train. But Trump's the one that rode in on that train too. He wasn't the first person. You guys being, part of the Ron Paul movement, being part of a bunch of other movements that were these organic grassroots that would manifest in this way or manifest in another way. But it's been this constitutional, foundational dynamic of getting back to the ideas that our forefathers laid forth, not just in the Constitution, but in their personal and public writings. That is the fuel behind this, and Trump got on that. We know he's, I think, Dinesh D'Souza's got a new thing out. I haven't watched it yet, and I'm
not planning on watching it.
Dinesh can be quite a bit of a clickbaiter now. It's like, you give me a title, and I click on your thing expecting to at least read a paragraph of the article, and there's nothing there but click on the article. And I'm like, dude, you're baiting, you're doing a clickbait thing, and I'm not into it. Anyways, but his thing was, he's written a new thing about Trump being the economic president, that he's or business president. And I go, I get that, because a lot of his platforms, if he was running against Bill Clinton, when Clinton ran for office in the 90s, their platforms would be real similar as far as, left or right leaning. Trump's not a huge conservative. He's a businessman, and he lived most of his life as America first. Now it's Israel first. But there's that dynamic, of he's really a moderate Democrat, but a businessman.
And he's not ideologically a conservative. He doesn't know the conservative principles and doesn't seem to be too interested in knowing them. And you can make an argument that because he was a strong leader, he delivered more than Republican presidents did on conservative principles, like with pro-life stuff, defunding Planned Parenthood, putting in the judges who were able to repeal Roe versus Wade.
Yep.
So he was able to be a vessel for those outcomes that were very good for conservatism, and because he had the balls to do it, he was more successful in that respect than other Republican presidents who probably understood the philosophy of conservatism better. So when he has, when he whether he's following his instincts or he has the right people giving him the right advice on what judges to put up, what course of action to take, he can be quite effective. But when he gets the wrong people in his ear, when they're able to control the environment around him, like they seem to be able to do now, have
It's kind of
Fox
the-
News on in the background
Yeah.
constantly, only giving him, information that they want him to hear. Trump's not on Twitter X anymore. He's in that
He's in his Truth Social
bubble
Yeah.
nonstop, and he gets no information outside of what is carefully curated for him, and it shows.
And it shows, definitely. And it's amazing to me. I'll even do that with, other people throughout life. I'm like, where'd you hear that? I'll just throw that out. I go, where'd you hear that? Where did that come from? And they're like,
Fox News.
well, I heard it, and I'm like, okay, because it all depends. I listen to my, I think it's pretty well known here on the show who I listen to on a regular basis. I listen to InfoWars. I listen to Viva Fry with Robert Barnes. I listen to, I like the other couple, Harrison Smith on InfoWars is great. And he's very much in line with our dynamic, even
Yes.
more so than Alex. Not that Alex has backed off that, but Harrison doesn't have sometimes a little filter.
He gives no fucks.
He gives no fucks. And but those are three of my main sources. And then, of course, I go to Mike Adams with
Yeah.
Natural News. I go to the Gateway Pundit. I go to the Rebel News.
Tucker.
I you know what? I catch most of Tucker's stuff with when InfoWars profiles them, because I'm listening to them. Like I put their feed on and just zone in on what I'm doing, and then I have to maybe rewind or fast forward or something like that. So then I hear it, and then if I hear something that they've touched on, because that's the cool thing about InfoWars that I like, and they're about to change up and just be the Alex Jones Network.
Oh yeah.
Thing. But the dynamic with those, with what Alex has built there, and then his whole team, is they're the ones that are constantly scouring the news in a pursuit of truth, and he keeps having to say it over and over again because he has come out very strongly against the president on a lot of these issues that we're talking about, and he's like, listen, I was with Trump when Trump was with truth and doing the right thing, and since he's deviated, I'm going to point it out. I'm calling balls and strikes. I'm not trying to influence the game from the dynamic of manipulation. I'm trying to influence the game by getting the calls right. And I'm calling these things out as that's not a good move, and you need to course correct.
And yeah, I think if Trump did something before that was a little bit off the wall,
Yeah.
or a little bit ridiculous, or you didn't support, you can kind of rationalize supporting him by saying, well, at least he hasn't started any new wars.
That was one of the things.
And that was kind of the glue that was
Yeah.
holding it all together. And then after, the Venezuela thing, which, I don't think was a disaster necessarily. I think that the way they went in and kind of removed them in a Noriega style,
Yeah.
it was done, I think, specifically to make sure it wasn't a regime change, long-stated regime change war. So,
Yep.
But my worry with that was, oh, Trump's going to think it's this easy everywhere.
And that's what the scuttlebutt behind the scenes is, that he
Yeah, people in his ear telling him, oh, you did it so
Yep.
good in Venezuela.
Yep.
We'll do the same in Iran. Bibi and whoever else,
Yep.
telling them this crap. And
it doesn't work.
apparently he bought it. And now, look, we're in
Yeah.
up Schitt's Creek without a paddle.
Exactly. What are you looking at, Dennis? I think we need to bring. Does he need to bring his chair up?
All right. So I was going to say a couple things about that. Getting back to the Doge
Yeah.
situation. So evidently, Doge was a dodge. It was not ever sincere. I think on
Is that
Trump's
the
part.
scuttlebutt on? Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Now, I'm not saying that on Elon Musk's part. He probably,
Right.
And the
So
people
a lot of sincere people that come into the administration expecting to affect good, and then next thing you know, a couple
They're
weeks
out.
later, they got the deer in the headlights look, and they're telling you there's nothing to see in the Epstein file. They've looked at it.
right, that sort of thing. But so
Yeah.
there was Doge, there was the Fort Knox audit of the gold that didn't happen. We were going to get the Russia-Ukraine war stopped right away, and the spending for that went up, and the support for the Zelensky
Regime.
neo-Nazi regime
Yes.
went up, and people may have forgotten about that, but that Scott Horton wrote in his great book, Provoked, not Justified, but Provoked.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that was going on over there, starting no later than 2014, really.
Yep.
But the pressure being put on the Russian speakers. I mean, really, really bad acts of war against them and threats against them.
Yeah.
And they kept asking President Putin to send Russian troops over to help, and he said, no, we have this agreement. And that's the way he tried to work that out. And Trump had said, to his credit, that he sort of understood that, and they were going to try to separate this because the whole thing made no sense. And he was right about that then.
Yep.
And you compare what he was saying then about that and so many issues with what he's doing now and what he's saying now, and particularly what he's doing now. Mm-hmm. And it's not the same thing at all. And in fact, as some people pointed out during the Russiagate hoax, and it was a hoax, there was a concern raised by a number of people that Trump's reaction to it would be to try to show, oh yeah, well, I'm not Putin's puppet or anybody's puppet or Russia's puppet or nothing. So he would say, nobody's ever tougher on Putin than I was, or tougher on Russia. Well, what was the point about being tough on Russia per se?
Right.
And these things that he was doing could be considered, acts of war without a declaration in terms of what they were doing. And it made more sense for the U.S. and Russia to try to figure out some way to work together on some things, or at least for us our government not to make it worse.
Right.
And you see the suffering that's going on in Ukraine, and even now you see all these videos. They're trying to drag these guys off to the front.
It's bad.
What's that? And again, the whole Maidan coup. And we have Lindsey Graham and the late John McCain and the current Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar was involved, and Robert Kagan's Victoria Nuland was involved in that, and the whole thing was just dirty double dealing, and they knew, as Scott Horton writes about it, and it was, when I say they, the entire American foreign policy establishment said "niet" means "niet." Don't expand NATO to the east, past Germany.
It's kind of a simple deal.
And they did that, and they were been using Ukraine as a way to attack and destroy Russia. And some of these people
they provoked Russia.
They've been very open about what they're trying to do.
Yep.
And eventually, I think Zelensky gave a speech where he said, "Okay, well maybe we should have nuclear weapons, and we have to have a final solution with the Russian speakers in the Donbass." And I think Putin heard that and said, "Okay, that's it." Now there's an interesting. I've read a number of people say that they think the whole idea was to get Russia to attack, to trap them in Ukraine. So then the United States and other governments could do the thing that Wesley Clark talked about, right? When he went to one guy and said, "Hey, are we going to really attack Iraq?" And this guy said, "Oh, it's a lot worse than that, General Clark. They're planning on hitting 7 countries, and the last one was Iran."
And now that Russia's bogged down in Ukraine,
Right.
they couldn't help in Syria. They can't really help in Iran.
Right.
They're hamstrung in their ability to stop, U.S. Israeli imperialism all throughout the Middle East.
Right. And so here's the other thing. And you look at Syria, and Trump did what Biden did, helping this evil coalition to attack the Syrian people and try to overthrow that government, which did provide protection for religious minorities, including Christians, and of course the Alawites, which the Assad family is Alawite. So all the minorities were kind of like together,
right?
Because they knew that if they went out and you had these head choppers take over, they'd be in trouble. Well, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So they sanctioned the Syrian people, like they've done to the Iranian people, like they've done to other people as well, creating great misery for them, and of course violating the rights of Americans who might want to trade or send aid to the people over there.
Yep.
So they did all of that, and then finally they weakened the Syrian forces to the point where the leader of Al Qaeda in Syria now rules Syria, and Donald Trump embraces that guy just like he's embraced Bibi the Butcher, just like he's embraced Ilham Ali of the Bloody Butcher from Baku. And you see what's happened and how much suffering people have gone through and trying to resist that. And the Iranians and the Lebanese Hezbollah and the Russians and the Syrian people, they had won a lot of victories against these head choppers, and it looked like they were going to win that war. Mm-hmm. But the United States government was actively involved in snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. And so now we have Al Qaeda ruling Syria, just like we have the Taliban, 20 years of warfare in Afghanistan, right? And all the billions, maybe is it trillions of dollars, and the lost lives and everything else. And so now we replace the Taliban with the Taliban, and now we've got Al Qaeda running Syria, and it's an absolute outrage. And frankly,
how messed up is it that when Assad was in power, the secular leader of the country who protected Christians, we put a crippling sanctions regime on them. He gets overthrown. They replace him with a literal terrorist Al Qaeda butcher, and then we alleviate the sanctions and we legitimize that ruler.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Well,
It's ridiculous, dude.
Well, what's up with that is it's all part of the real goal of foreign policy. Like we talked about before, there's with the government and the politicians, the foreign policy and domestic policy are sold on the basis of one thing, but it's really for something else.
Mm-hmm.
And so what had to happen with the Syria thing is there were some countries that wanted to destroy that government. I think Israel and Turkey were both in on that. Saudi Arabia was too. Some of the European countries, and what they've done is just horrendous for the Syrian people. And so Syria suffers greatly. Lebanon is suffering greatly. Lebanon, the Israelis now, where they're destroying southern Lebanon, and even they're bombing Beirut again. And this has been going on for such a long time. It predates Hezbollah, and Hezbollah, one thing they had done, they had successfully resisted Israeli aggression against Lebanon, so the Israelis had to pull out.
Right.
So and what does that do? That rallies more people behind Hezbollah because they're the only ones who can stand up to the Israelis and stop the bloodshed that they're bringing into Lebanon. So that's how blowback works. Is when you do these horrible bombing campaigns and you commit these war crimes and ethnic cleansings and genocides. The people who stand up, damn, it's like I don't know what the hell that was.
Was it one of
gonna
the
kill it?
Yeah, kill it.
It's
one
killed.
Of one of our stink bugs.
It was a stink bug, yeah. Anyway, when you commit these heinous war crimes, it's going to rally more people around extremists and cause the extremists to be able to recruit. Because if someone watches their loved one get blown to bits, they're going to be more likely to be radicalized and want to join up with a Hezbollah type group or the Houthis in Yemen or the Iranian Islamic extremist regime. Those are the sort of groups that grow when the U.S. and Israel are committing war crimes across the region.
And just point out, the Iranian regime, of course, is Shiites. They're Shiites, right? And what they've done, if you look at it, they haven't invaded another country. They've given aid to fellow Shiites and to Christians who were under attack by either the Zionists or the Islamists, the head-chopping Wahhabist types.
Right.
So that's what they were doing.
I think one of the things to me that's very interesting is people keep saying, they're huge state-sponsored terrorists, and then when I ask, okay, give me a case in point, most
Quantify
people
that.
have a blank stare, and I'm like, because just as much as you say from the mainstream media that they've been a sponsor of terrorism, I can actually say that better and with more backup of actual cases about Pakistan and North Korea. You know, that we know of North Korean troops being sent into.
And it's like, okay, well, Iranian proxies have killed U.S. Well, the reason why that's happened is because the U.S. we're over there. They're not over here killing scores of Americans in our country.
If we removed our
we're
base,
over there in these bases occupying.
Yep.
We're supporting their enemies in Iraq and with Israel.
Right.
We're over there meddling. And
100%.
that's what is the cause of all the problems.
Look how close they put their country to the U.S. military bases, the U.S. ships, the U.S. planes.
I can't believe
they were
asking
for trouble.
They were asking for trouble. Well, did you guys see? I'm a Marvel fan. Did you see Age of Ultron?
Oh, a while ago, yes.
Okay, so in Age of Ultron, just a quick thing, and then it'll lead me to my question. But a quick thing. So the Scarlet Witch and the Quicksilver are in there, right? They're twins in the movie, and they are the result of a bombing of their village. And these two kids were eating dinner with their parents, and their parents are instantly dead, and they're underneath a bed, and a Stark bomb falls through their whole building and lands next to them. And they said, we lay there for the next 3 days while they're trying to dig us out of the rubble, hoping that the Stark bomb doesn't go off. And they're talking about Tony Stark. And so Strucker, the evil guy in there, the former Nazi, he uses that trauma that they went through to get them to attack Tony Stark and all the Avengers and basically be evil for that. And through the course of the movie, they figure out just because somebody uses your weapons doesn't mean you're the progenitor of evil. Whole case in point is they had a cause and effect, as you were just pointing out, Shane, of somebody attacks a country, and then you watch innocent people getting blown up and tore apart, and their kids are watching this, or their family's watching this. They become what's our favorite term? They become
collateral damage.
Collateral damage.
Well,
radicalized.
well, obviously that, but I'm saying radicalized.
Yes.
Yeah, that you did say that. They become radicalized because they're watching this, and that movie has this great depiction of how somebody gets radicalized because of these theaters of war that we just indiscriminately throw out, and that leads me to this question that nobody really wants to answer for me with any definitive response. They'll tell me. They're shouting death to America, they're shouting death to America, they're shouting death to America. And I go, okay, why? When did that start? Because it didn't start yesterday. It didn't start with this new thing, this new bombing campaign that we have going on, or whatever the hell we're calling it now. And it didn't start last year when we had the strategic strikes and we let them know ahead of time so they could evacuate their people and move their stuff around. And then they had to save face and do a little retaliation. So they warned us where they were going to lob some missiles over. And last year was all theater. All total political military theater. Now, it's really fucking things up right now. And so I keep looking at people that tell me, well, they shout death to America, and they're a state sponsor of terrorism. And I go, why? What is the origin? Have you studied Lawrence of Arabia, his actual story and how he went in there to these tribal groups of people that weren't even really a lot of nation states throughout the Middle East. They were more tribal, and through the British and what was his actual name? T.S. Lawrence.
Lawrence.
T.E. Lawrence. He came in there and tried to organize them, and he was pissed and wrote in his memoirs near the end, and he'd been brutalized by them, but he befriended them and he became Lawrence of Arabia. And then this dynamic, it came just before. I think they killed him off right after he made some statements. I'd have to look that up, but I know he died.
He had a motorcycle accident or something.
Something like that.
Convenient.
Yeah, just like
James Dean.
Huh?
Like James Dean.
Well, I was thinking of that one general.
Patton.
Patton.
Yeah.
But he Lawrence definitely came out and said, I did all this hard work to make these get these coalitions so that we could work together with all of these tribes and hopefully form some nations and start to do some stuff. And basically he said, and then my government abandoned them and screwed it all up, and now it's gone back into tribal factions, but at least we have access to the oil. You know, that was the dynamic that I was looking at. So I just don't get an answer from anybody on that question of where did it start? Because you don't just have a group of people that shout death to America unless they have some reason, valid or invalid, of hating America long before this. You don't get that mantra rolling through unless you've been radicalized into that dynamic. And that radicalization doesn't just come from being a state sponsor of terrorism. That means you may have been bombed or attacked by either America or by American weapons through another proxy. And now, because of that, you read USA on the side of that missile that hit your friend's house and blew it up, or whatever the case may be.
Raytheon.
Yeah, and now you're like, yeah, death to them, and nobody's, the vast majority of people. I'm not saying nobody, but I haven't gotten an answer from anybody saying, well, historically. So Dennis, I know you want to chime in on the.
Yeah, on a number of things here. But by the way, where Lawrence was brutalized, I believe, well, he was captured by the Turks.
And horribly, if you read the actual account, it's horrible.
Yeah, what happened? But then getting back to the Iran thing, and it's like with so much of this, the United States did not have a problem with the Middle East in general. America did not, or the United States government, either one, until after U.S. intervention overseas. Somebody said, well, what about the Barbary Pirates? Well, that wasn't, like, we weren't fighting the entire Middle East, and it wasn't even like the U.S. versus Islam or something. It was a very discrete thing with the Barbary Pirates.
We literally waited until they got too close to our ships after we knew they were attacking our ships, and then attacked back.
Well, what happened was Jefferson. He went to Congress and he said, these are the facts as I know them.
Yeah.
And the best as we know. Now you tell me what to do. I'm bringing this up because people say, well, Jefferson just went and did what he did with the Barbary Pirates without a declaration.
No.
Yes, but that's not accurate. In fact, there were other examples like this too, where people would say, my gosh, they were so restrained, but they would go, I mean, Washington and Adams also did the same thing, in Madison, where they said, we got to have, Congress saying what we're going to do, but here the president's going to gather the facts. What do you think we should do? And Jefferson, rather, was actually a little bit more hawkish about it than was Adams, but he said, I'm not going to take initiate any offensive actions
Yeah.
or anything without congressional approval or congressional direction. But then you move ahead forward to the post World War I era. At that point, yes, I was just about to get there. The great Gypsy Magic, who was in our chat room here,
Yeah.
brought up Operation Ajax 1953.
I'm pulling it up right now. I'm hoping this is a good site.
So when people say this is what began the whole thing, and there was a lot of brutalization of Iranians that was done after that.
Yeah.
And my understanding, I just read this the other day. Even after the Iranian Revolution, they didn't have this whole thing about death to America and even taking over the embassy.
Right.
Until the Carter administration said, well, we're not going to send the Shah back to face charges.
Yeah.
And okay.
So, no, I just want to read the headline and then you continue, Dennis. Operation Ajax, how the CIA, BP, and MI6 took Iran's oil.
True story.
True story. Why? Why'd you pop up after I scrolled down? Two things. August 1953, armored vehicles rolled into Tehran. Crowds surged around newspaper offices. Portraits of the Shah reappearing in the shop window. By evening, Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh was under arrest. No foreign army officially invaded. No declaration of war was issued. No borders shifted. Yet the government had nationalized Iran's oil 2 years earlier and was gone. And within months, Western Allied control over the oil was restored under a new consortium structure. Continue, Dennis.
Okay. So, and by the way, I believe, and I think I've heard the great Scott Horton talk about this, that actually the mullahs didn't like Mossadegh either. Mm-hmm. And so the mullahs and the Shah and the U.S. and the British were all working together to accomplish this thing. But then, but the other point is, Dave Smith is, he's brought up this thing about, well, how would you quantify that Iran is the largest sponsor of state terror? Let's stipulate that all states have a terrorist aspect to them, and yeah, I'm sure we can find some. Oh, look at that, But if you just try to quantify it, I don't think you have to go to Pakistan and North Korea to find worse examples of governments killing more civilians and using more pressure on civilians to achieve political ends. Which is, as Glenn Greenwald has said, if you're going to find a definition of terrorism, that would be it. But usually, they don't even use that. Just who don't we like? Well, they're terrorists, and that.
Well,
right.
that isn't that what we got with Bush, the Bush doctrine of, if you're not with us, then you're with the terrorists. No, I'm not with either one of you. And then I've asked this question of a number of people. I think we even had it in a chat thread that you were on, as people are like, going to the extreme. And I go, does nobody find it hypocritical or find the irony or whatever the term you want to use that that our president was literally threatening to nuke a nation with the justification that we can't let them have nukes? We're the only country that's ever dropped nuclear weapons on another country. There's a lot of speculation behind the scenes from historians that we could have, that the emperor was ready to surrender. He just needed to convince more of his war cabinet of that. But the emperor was definitely ready to surrender before dropping a singular nuclear bomb, and he had.
We had to show the Ruskies who's boss.
That's the key. Is we had to show the Ruskies who was the boss. And so on that level, wait a minute. You didn't exhaust every possible avenue of diplomacy before dropping a bomb because it served to terrorize the communist regimes out there that we wanted to let them know. It kicked off the Cold War. And now we're the ones that are policing everybody else going, all right, we have this horrible, deadly weapon, but you can't have it.
Well, here's another.
Israel can have it, we
Right.
can have it, but you can't have it.
But you can't have it because you might do something bad with it.
When we've already
When
dropped
we're
it.
the only country in the history of this country to use it in a actual war theater against a civilian population, and yet we're gonna be the arbiters of who we accuse as terrorists out there. Dennis, you were gonna say something.
Right. Well, so a number of things here. Martin Van Creveld is a famous, I think he's still living, he's a famous Israeli strategist and historian. Mm-hmm. And he says he can't figure out why the Iranians don't want to get a nuclear deterrent. He said they wouldn't use it. And I've read articles where other Israeli and American experts on this said, they would just want to have one or two, just leave us alone. And I think that's the issue. There are people, and I think this includes the Israeli government, includes the United States government, and probably some others, that don't want the Iranians to be able to say, leave us alone and have a deterrent that we think would be, that we say, okay, I guess we better do that.
Yeah.
So they're showing.
And what Israel really doesn't want is a united, Arab or Muslim people. They want in these petty dictators who can be toppled or can be bought off, who are going to brutalize their own people. They don't want a kind of a united, coherent government structure anywhere in the Middle East of Arabs or Muslims, and they'll do everything they can to undermine that and put that down.
Or it may be even with maybe even not even Eastern Christians.
Right. Mm-hmm. And can we name a single country or region that Iran has invaded in the last 47 to 50 years?
No, they haven't. They
Not
haven't.
a single thing. So the only accusation that we can levy at them is that they're a sponsor of terrorism, and yet it's anecdotal at best. Tell me a direct correlation. I can give you direct correlations on other ones, like we keep saying. Give me an indirect. It's like, Libya, Gaddafi, he paid the reparations, but he never admitted direct responsibility for Lockerbie, for the Lockerbie aircraft. That's closer than anything we could ever pull out of our ass for Iran of going.
Well, Gaddafi gave up his weapons. He played ball.
Yeah,
After
and then
9/11,
he was sodomized to death
Yeah.
because he wanted to sell his oil in
And get gold.
Libyan dinar,
Yeah, gold-backed dinar.
gold-backed dinar.
And you think
That was the same thing that happened to Saddam, and that was the same thing that I believe is happening to Iran. And going back to this Ajax, Operation Ajax, it's all about getting a hold of that because, and here's the dirty little secret that everybody else, because I'm thinking we've got oil, we've got more oil. We know Trump's talked about it. We know that they've shut down Anwar and opened Anwar. They had the huge pipeline that the minute it got done and Biden got in, he shut it down. What was that the number? We've got line 5 here. What was the one that was out west that they shut down immediately?
Oh, Keystone.
Keystone pipeline.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dennis.
You're welcome.
But it comes down to it and go, we've got enough oil in our own country to, if we ramped up production, we don't need a thing from anybody anywhere around the world. We've got so much oil here, it's ridiculous. And I'm not even talking about fracking. I'm talking about just opening up our stuff, right? So why do we need to go after the oil in there? And when you come back to it, it's the emergence after World War II of the petrodollar. And the problem is, as we're looking at it economically, the dollar is so horribly worthless right now that if we don't prop it up with oil sales, it will collapse. Agreed?
Well,
Just agreed?
Yeah, and the oil might, in some ways, that might even, I mean, it's a market, it's fungible. So, I mean, that might even be just kind of like an excuse or a rationalization. We have to get over there because they didn't need to do that.
But you see what I'm saying with the propping
Yeah.
up? We're propping up the petrodollar
Right.
by going in and making sure these countries are selling in the petrodollar. Because as soon as they say we're going to sell in another currency, what was the big blowout with BRICS, right? Brazil and Russia and China and India are going to start trading the oil in their own thing, and that was the ripples behind the scenes that sent through the market, through the halls of power. That was, I mean, I'm watching it going, these guys are like trying to be low key, but they're shitting themselves because if those 4 countries actually start trading without us, the dollar's done. It's
the
done.
jig is up.
Well, de-dollarization. Yeah, they were
100%. Yeah.
I'm going to get back to the other thing, but I just want to mention real quickly something that some of the people that are following along with the supply chain issues and other things. Vince Lancy is a name of somebody that's talked about this.
Okay.
What the Chinese have been doing is because the U.S. government weaponized the dollar, but more than just weaponizing the dollar, they weaponized the SWIFT system.
Yes.
And so we saw with these sanctions, with these acts of aggression against American people and people overseas economically.
Yeah.
What they did was they showed these other countries, well, we can do this to you, and we can take your money, we can freeze it, we can do what we want.
Yep.
Or we can just confiscate it.
Yep.
And so they would say, well, now we don't trust the Americans, and that's I think was actually what happened with Iran and they got all that cash. Well, that's because it was frozen illegitimately, was stolen from them.
Correct.
And then they said, no, we're not going to take credits in a bank account or something. You give us cash, so you can't pull that nonsense on us again.
Right.
But anyway, the Chinese apparently have, along with the Belt and Road Initiative, they've been. And evidently, these people say, well, they were among the accumulators of gold, as have been the Russians and others. Okay, if we accumulate gold, then they can't pull this nonsense on us.
Yeah.
But they said, well, they wanted to do was to set up a system of vaults that they would control and say, we guarantee we're not going to mess with it. You can trade in your local currencies and then settle the differences in gold. Is the way I read it. I think Vince Lancy's talked about this.
Yep.
And so then you think about the other things that have been going on. Maybe that's also what Trump and his people said. Well, wait a minute. We if they do that sounds like a pretty good system. We don't want that to happen. Peace might break out. So what they do is they attack Venezuela, or they're doing this stuff with Iran. So they're saying,
Right.
sure, you can set up your vaults with your gold all around the world.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that we won't attack that country or even attack the vault. Who knows what they'll do? But they're
Correct.
right. So all that's going on. But getting back to the Iran thing.
Well, let me
Okay.
hold the Iran real quick, Dennis. But that's another case in point, right? Why did we get rid of Saddam Hussein? His daddy tried it, and then Bush Jr. did it. Why? It had nothing to do with it. The weapons of mass destruction was a joke. All of that other stuff was a joke. It was the fact that Iraq was going to start selling their oil in something other than, or desired to sell it in something other than the petrodollar. Same with Gaddafi in Libya, and then you're exactly right on how do we get back this huge majority or this big market share of the petrodollar strength. Well, let's go in and take out the president of Venezuela and install his vice president, who's equally as bad, but potentially she's going to play ball and keep selling her oil.
In
And that was one of the
dollars.
things
Yeah,
was huge right away was, we're in charge of the oil. We definitely I heard this right away during that operation. We definitely got to get control of the oil. Why? Because it props up the dollar, because the dollar is dead as far as if it wasn't propped up by oil, what's backing it? The full faith and credit of the United States?
Yes,
We
it's
might,
military.
we might
Yeah.
come in and bomb you if you don't take the dollar.
Exactly,
Right.
but that's what I'm seeing for the last 80 years or more, or 80 plus years now. Since the petrodollar's been put in place, it's always propping up or attacking these nations in order to make sure that the dollar is the reserve currency. And the reality is, studying economically, and we've had shows on that, really the dominant currencies really only last about 80 years before it flips to another country. It was the British pound leading up. That's why the British BP was part of that Ajax. They were the ones, Lawrence of Arabia again, in there doing that dynamic of having the British pound as a reserve currency throughout the world. And they literally, after World War II, were the ones that were neutered, and the U.S. took that spot. And now the geopolitical environment, they're trying to unseat the petrodollar again, and it's viable. You could have huge markets trading in gold, as you said, to where you're trading in your currency, but then you do your exchange, at a certain point you build it up. I think that's one of the things we did with 9/11. The largest gold reserve in actually far more than Fort Knox was in Tower 7. I believe that's where it was. They had huge reserves, and all the paperwork for the Pentagon and the CIA were in Tower 7, and of course the
And
Pentagon
it
where it
hadn't
got
been
hit.
digitized yet.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of these dynamics, and it comes back to propping up our economy. And I think that may be one of the ways that Trump's being duped into these things, or maybe he's open-eyed and looking at it, is if he allows certain things to happen, the economy collapses, and he's all about trying to prop up this economy. And we're coming up on 40,000, or have we passed it? $40 trillion?
Oh, yeah,
We're above 40
We're
trillion.
40 trillion. And it's ridiculous to me looking at this, and you sit down with the average person, and they just don't see even the tip of the iceberg of this type of worldwide political dynamic to go, oh, it wasn't about just getting the oil, because that was the thing. We knew, oh, we got to get the oil. And then we leave and we don't get the oil, right? We're not profiting from the oil.
Yeah.
But then people don't calculate, wait, the oil still be traded in the petrodollar, so that props up our currency. I look at this dynamic with China. How much do we want China to prosper or collapse, right? Where's the balance at? Because China holds huge amounts of Federal Reserve,
debt,
the
federal
bonds,
debt,
the
treasury bonds, treasury notes.
yeah. And you go, wait a minute, how strategic do we need to be to kind of divest China of holding all of our money, and yet not our money collapse, because they bought up so much of our money to prop up our economy, which was why starting with Nixon and then presidents after that, had to negotiate these deals to keep buying their goods, because they hold a shit ton of our treasury bonds over there, or whatever the instrument actually, but it's propping up the dollar. Go.
Well, because also, so it's really about propping up the politicians. because politically, even though if we went through a change and went back in a free market direction, now there's been so much corporatism, corporate socialism, and so much inflation of the supply of money and credit, and there's so much leverage now that whatever happens, you got to take that into account. It's hard to see a way out of that without there being a really big downturn or a hyperinflationary blow-off, one of the two, and that's sort of what they're fighting on that. But as somebody said here, Barron 1805 made a very good point.
We know Barron.
Yeah. The Chinese version of SWIFT.
Yeah.
And actually, I think as Vince Lancey points out, it's not just, it's sort of the BRICS version.
Yes.
So I think the Russians are in with the stupid, I think they call it M-Bridge or something, but the whole idea was, what they say is, they can settle a lot quicker, a lot less expensively.
Yep.
And without the political things. So the idea is that gold becomes the neutral asset. So that's why so many central banks, which is interesting. The history, by the way, the history of central banks buying gold at one time was considered to be like a contrary indicator. But that was Western central banks that were from the Ancien regime, if you will, like the British, and Gordon Brown was the exchequer, and he famously sold huge amounts of gold right at the low. And then apparently what happened was Canada, which has all this gold in the ground and all that sort of thing, and they said, well, we don't need gold in our central bank, so they began getting rid of getting rid of the gold we have, and then the Chinese evidently said, oh yeah, we'll buy some. No, we're not going to sell it to you.
Right.
So then the Chinese, I think Vince Lance and others have talked about this too, and the Chinese said, okay, so what we better do is we better go into the marketplace and start buying gold.
Yes.
So they, along with a lot of these other governments, and of course the Russians were doing that too, and they said, and we just had an example actually where Turkey and another country recently were selling some gold.
Yeah.
So as some people pointed out, well, gold, I think Rick Rule, if you know who he is, he was pointing out, he said, so gold was serving its function, this liquidity function. Mm-hmm. So for some of these governments, they could then get rid of that. But again, this M-Bridge system, the idea is it settles much more quickly, much less expensive, and they don't have to worry about the U.S. government doing what it does. So there was a huge advantage to them there.
Yeah, read Gypsy Magic's big one, talking about the Middle East, American Middle East.
Well, and the private central bank, so the Fed in 1913.
Yeah, private central control, and then Barron again. Fundamental problem is the international fractional reserve central banking
system,
and I think that's a huge dynamic is the fractional reserve. When they brought in fractional reserve to where you can have 10% of it, that alone is an inflationary causing economic disaster waiting to happen. When you can lend out 10%, so you can lend out
90%
based on what? You have to have you only have to have 10% reserves, and you can loan out 90% on that. The minute there's a question about it, I love the movie Sneakers from years ago where they talk about that, and he says in the movie he goes, think about a bank. He goes, the rumblings are that the bank is unstable. He goes, pretty soon the bank is unstable. Then the people go in to cash their money, and pretty soon the bank's defunct. And he's like, I've shut down whole banks. He's like, I've already done that. It's this dynamic of perception alone can destroy an economic base. I was talking with, you guys know the show from last week with Jay. Great show, totally different subject. But Jay was telling me off air that that he had got a big payout when his program at Ford got shut down. They gave him a big payout. He took it, grew it, was doing market stuff like that. Saw one of these big banks, looked at the track record of the bank, said, no big, this is a solid investment. Put in, what's the big shares, the premium shares and common stock, or preferred stock and common stock. Okay. Put almost all of that $5 million in those two venues, okay? And then there was a whole bunch of shenanigans behind the scene with this bank, and they came to it and liquidated the whole thing, bought it up with pennies on the dollars, and never paid any of the shareholders anything. And Jay says, I lost $5 million overnight because the bank went belly up, and the bankruptcy, they let another bank buy them out and never compensated any of the shareholders and never had any ramifications.
Shouldn't the FDIC step in and insure them?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, the depositors allegedly, but even now we start looking at how much the FDIC has. But the which is.
But it's another
very low.
scam. It's another dynamic of scamming the people, and you're using fractional reserves, and you don't have enough assets on your book to back up the loans that you've made. So if those loans default, you're going to be in default, and you're going to collapse, and a lot of good people get hurt along with that. And we've done that not just with our banking, individual banks themselves to our people, but the entire economic system is teetering on that cliff, ready to fall off. We've propped this thing up for so long, and now we're having to spend billions, if not trillions of dollars fighting foreign battles in these countries just to maintain a foothold in those countries, to make sure that they're selling in the petrodollar so that we can then prop up our failing economy right now. And I'm seeing this just absolute vicious cycle that's happening. And it comes back to this, and what's the fallout? I titled the show, I asked you guys, Anti-Genocide. We have genocides of whole Christian populations throughout these foreign theaters of war. They're getting brought up, or even just countries we're not even paying attention to that aren't an outright war, but there's still a genocide going on. We arrested and prosecuted Slobodan Milosevic for doing genocide in his own people, but we're sitting here with our president that we supported 100%. Some of us, I know Dennis had may have had his full-blown reservations but I'm not speaking for you. But the vast majority of us supported this president because we expected no new wars. We expected no regime change. We expected this. And here we turn around and he's threatening to nuke a sovereign nation. He's threatening to destroy the entire nation, wipe it out. That's genocide. That's a classical definition of genocide.
I thought we were going to liberate them, and then now we're going to wipe them all out.
Well, and that kind of
I don't get it.
Isn't that terrorism?
None of it makes any sense.
Isn't it terrorism? So who's the greatest sponsor of state terror?
The United States. And we know that. We know that sitting at this table.
It sounds like communist talk.
No, the reality is
You don't love this country, get out.
the CIA is one of the greatest regime changes. That's why I love the Donald Sutherland speech in JFK, the movie
It's great.
JFK,
It's
because
great.
he's like, we went into save the Dalai Lama. We went into this country. We overturned those elections. We went into this country. We overturned. They've had their hands meddling since they went from being the OSS to being the CIA. They've been in there upturning these other sovereign countries and influencing their stuff.
We were even doing it before the CIA came into existence.
That's what I'm saying. During
But the
the
CIA
OSS
took it to a whole nother level.
Correct, because they have no responsibility, no oversight beyond general things, and then they learn to sell or learn to traffic guns and weapons and drugs.
Crack
so therefore,
cocaine in the
they're
inner
self-funded.
cities,
They're
yeah.
self-funded now. Was that Freeway Ricky Ross?
Freeway, yeah.
But that's this dynamic, and then we're looking. I want to get into this genocide, but these foreign policy, we call them failures, but well, you had me put the question mark to it,
Right.
Dennis, on our paper. Foreign policy failures. I think there's a strategic end. It may be totally nefarious. I think, but when you stop and you start to look back at Iraq and Libya and now even Venezuela and of course Iran, you go, we're propping up our economy by attacking other nations and calling them terroristic by using terroristic tactics.
So
But it's not really our economy.
exactly.
It's
Well,
the
it's the
economy
bankers.
for
Yeah.
the banksters and
Correct.
Wall
What
Street.
And the munitions
Look
people.
at the Dow. The Dow's higher than ever before.
Wasn't that Pam Blondie that did that?
Yeah, that's that's who they're looking out for.
Why are
not
you even
the-
worried about
Not the economic
Epstein?
prosperity of
Look
the
at
common
the look
people.
at the Dow. It's like, you know what? The vast majority of people are looking at their bills.
They don't. The vast majority of people don't give a fuck about the Dow.
Well,
You know who warned us about Pam Bondi back in the day?
Shane.
Chris Ann Hall.
Oh,
that's right.
Chris,
Yes.
Chris Ann Hall.
yeah.
Chris Ann Hall had said, people better watch out for this woman. She's a gun grabber.
Yep.
Well, yeah, her and Trump, right? Because the Trump administration has set the record for the most violations of the Second Amendment. That's from our friends at the 10th Amendment Center. They've been keeping track
wow.
of that. Yeah,
Through the ATF and all that.
yeah, through all that
BS?
stuff. Yeah, And Trump did say, take the guns first. We're
Ask
about due
questions
process
later.
second. Yeah,
Due process later. Yeah.
yeah. So, and there's a number of things like that.
Well, what's Robert Barnes has called her from day one pay for play Bondi or pay
She
for
was
play
the
fan.
Pfizer. She was Pfizer attorney, right?
Yeah.
And look at those things that RFK has tried to overturn rightly so, and they getting blocked, whether it's from Todd Blanche or whether it was from Pam. They've shut down multiple investigations that should have gone forward. I mean,
But at least we're making glyphosate great again.
Yeah, and we do have MAGA, Miriam Adelson's goals achieved. So there's that. But if you look what's been going on, this whole thing, I think the American people, if they really looked at it and saw the whole picture, of course they would be outraged.
Yeah.
Including something you were pointing out, Jeremy, is that you look at what's happened to the Christian communities of Iraq, and in Libya, and in Palestine,
Yeah.
and in Syria, and even in Lebanon. They've suffered greatly, and we look at what, and I would like to mention. We have the second item. So foreign policy failures with a question mark, and the reason, folks, that we have that is there is the stated objective, and they never seem to accomplish it. Whether it's domestic policy or foreign policy, we don't get the success that we were told we were going to get for the things that was supposed to be the goal. But
Right.
for the people that are pulling the strings and that are running the show, at least politically.
Yeah.
Even though the markets will then provide some snapback to them, that will not. Then there's other problems. All these things start spinning out of control. It's like in the Fantasia, right? Mickey Mouse, as the wizard goes away, so Mickey Mouse, he was told not to do anything. And he starts, trying to get. And all of a sudden, oh my God, he has all these problems. So, but the other thing that's happened is, and what many people don't realize is that U.S. Foreign policy harming the average American, the ordinary American, and harming the ordinary person overseas, benefiting small groups, special interest, foreign and domestic, are actually doing things that will aid and abet the establishment of the Neo-Ottoman Caliphate. And that gets to our next point about Armenia, Turkey, and Azerbaijan. And I want to mention this because Friday was April 24th, and it was the commemoration of April 24th of 1915, which was a key date in the Turkish genocide of the Armenians, the Assyrians, and the Greeks, and all the Christian populations within the Turkish Empire during World War I. Actually, the genocide situation, it started before that. Actually, in the 1890s. But there was a key thing that happened on April 24th where they went and they arrested all of these intellectuals and these Armenian community leaders.
Yeah.
And the way they justify it, and they're on social media now, it's disgusting. These propagandists, these apologists for evil for the Turkish genocide activities, they said, these Armenians were doing bad things. Or they betrayed the Turkish state. They just suffered a serious military defeat at the hands of the Tsarist Russian forces.
Yep.
And that was because of the Pasha's ineptitude.
Okay.
All right, but they needed a scapegoat, and so they arrested these Armenian leaders, and then one thing led to another, and they issued all these proclamations, which now they say, oh no, that never happened. Oh, but yeah, they deserved it, and we'll do it again, kind of a thing. But then you've got the rotten Azerbaijan, which the name is stolen. The Turks and the Soviets and the British got together, and they set up this state, an artificial state, to the east of Armenia. In an area, and they took the name Azerbaijan, even though there's a part of Iran that actually is Azerbaijan.
Right.
Right. And the Iranian or the Persian government protested. They were taking that name, but they did it anyway. And then it wasn't really an independent country, but it became part of the Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. And then Stalin and Lenin, they said, yeah, okay, we'll let the traditional, what's left of Armenia after all the genocide by the Turks of Western Armenia. And apparently, by the way, President Putin, I meant to send this to you guys. I didn't read the whole thing yet, but it looks like his statement on this genocide was a really good one. Unlike Trump, who backed up and won't call it a genocide now, unlike J.D. Vance, who goes to the genocide memorial in Armenia. I can't pronounce the name of it, but anyway.
Yeah.
And then he put, we're here, we're commemorating the victims of the genocide, and then Turkey and Azerbaijan are complaining, so he takes that down. Cowardly actions by these men that say, oh yeah, we're really tough. Look how tough we are when we want to, tick down.
Right.
But we cower.
Right.
Even though we say how tough we are. They talk about taco. This might, But anyway, getting back to this other thing. So what happened was the Turks said, no, hey, do you want to get the Soviet Red Fleet to be able to go through the Dardanelles to get into the Mediterranean? Well, here's what we want. So they took an area called Nakhichevan, which is Armenian. They gave that to Azerbaijan. They gave Artsakh or Nagorno-Karabakh to Azerbaijan, but Azerbaijan was not an independent country. It was a Soviet Socialist Republic, so these were like autonomous regions within Azerbaijan. But the Azerbaijanis treated the people terribly. But what eventually happened when the Soviet Union dissolved, they said, well, there's no more Soviet Union, so I guess the Soviet law doesn't work anymore. And as Americans, we say you have the right to self-determination. A ruler has to have the consent of the governed. And Azerbaijan never had the consent of the governed in
Right.
Nagorno-Karabakh or even in Nakhichevan. But they killed and they destroyed. They wiped out in Nakhichevan. They've destroyed all the cross stones and all the churches and everything.
Yeah.
They're doing the same thing now in Artsakh. Now that they've genocided that.
Yeah.
Trump embraces this guy and says, "Oh yeah, he's a really smart guy." And people wondered about the Russian stance was kind of like trying to play both sides against, because that's what Azerbaijan did. And now now Aliyev and Zelensky, two terrorist dictators, are working together. And now the Russians are going, "Hey, what the heck happened?" And there were Russians that said this is going to be a mistake.
Yep.
But what their policy had been when they didn't help the Armenians like they should have done. But there are American politicians today, and I know it as sure as we're sitting here. Had Russia come to Armenia's aid during the Azerbaijani aggression against the Armenians, they would have taken the Azerbaijani side. They're taking that side now. We even have the Oklahoma National Guard that works training Azerbaijani forces. And the oppression of the Azerbaijani people, of the Azeri people,
Yeah.
and of their various ethnic minorities, not just Armenians, but who they killed or expelled, all of them. But there was the Talish and the Dagestani and all these other different groups. It's just awful. And
the Azerbaijani government is very close partners with the state of Israel, correct?
Oh, absolutely. They in Turkey send Israel, yes, great point, Shane, petroleum, and the Israelis were selling them weaponry. In fact, there was one time where there were Israeli drones and things, even before there was outright war. They were practicing, and they were shooting at Armenians using the Israeli weapons. And people, and there was a man of great principle, an Israeli man named, ironically, Israel Charny, who said, "We have to stop doing this." And he really worked at trying to, and they said, "No, we're not going to stop," because they didn't care. They didn't care about the lives of the Armenians because they are less than.
Yeah.
And this gets back, actually, so you start looking at the whole Zionist project and all what they say and what they're doing now and how they have the two-tiered system. Either you're part of the favored group or you're not.
And nothing we do in the Middle East with our foreign policy helps Christians on a worldwide level.
100%.
It does not help the spread of Christianity. I don't even hear that as an argument from people who are pro-war, supposedly pro-life, pro-Christian. It's all about
You hear more about
Zionism,
protecting. You hear more about Zionism protecting Israel than you do.
about protecting
Christians.
Christians and promoting Christianity.
I had to read that on Tuesday's show. With Joe was sitting here, and I pulled up a couple scriptures, and I'm like, Paul wrote about this, that Israel has received a hardening in part because of their unbelief, and they've been cut off. Now, if they don't persist in unbelief, they're able to be grafted in again, because God is able to graft them in again. I'm almost reading the scripture verbatim. He says, "You being a wild olive shoot, being grafted into the natural shoot, you've become." And so I had to explain to him, I'm like, dude, it literally says in the New Testament scriptures that we are spiritual Israel. We are the Israel for the new covenant. And this whole dynamic of this Zionist, I just watched. That's why I was sharing that what news is I watch, right? Mm-hmm. But if I went through my history of podcasts that I watch, or not even podcasts, but like documentaries or people doing, I just went through part 3 of the Book of Jubilee. Somebody reading the Book of Jubilee, okay, which is an expansion on Genesis, very dynamic. But prior to that, it was the Ethiopian Christians and their history, the history of the Ethiopian Christians and how the actual Ark of the Covenant is purported to be hidden somewhere in Ethiopia, and how their doctrines have stayed in place and maintained for the last 2,000 years and surpassed a lot of these big predominant church things. But this dynamic, the Christian aspect of this and the persecution is astounding. I don't know this site. I just typed in this thing, but looking at this, is that a good site?
Well, I love the picture.
Yeah.
So that
Understanding the Genocide of Christians, a Global Crisis.
Is it Noravok? It looks like.
So I just, while you were talking, Dennis, I was just scrolling down real quick, and I wanted to get to this paragraph right here. Where was it? It's right below this one. Right here. Look at this. And we've mentioned this without mentioning it. This is a site that I've never gone to, but it clicked up. In countries such as North Korea, Nigeria, Pakistan, and parts of India, Christians are subjected to harassment, imprisonment, torture, and death. In some areas, entire villages are burned to the ground, churches are destroyed, and believers are left with nowhere to worship or even live. the Middle East, the birthplace of Christianity, has become one of the most dangerous regions for Christians. And we've mentioned a number of countries, and it's amazing to me that we're looking at the genocide in these countries, and I'm amazed it keeps coming up more and more. Iran has a huge Christian population that was protected by the government to operate. Libya has a huge Christian population, a huge, strong Christian population that's been persecuted. We find that Israel is constantly targeting churches, not mosques necessarily, but definitely churches throughout these Middle Eastern regions.
I actually probably both.
I would say both, but the minute you attack a mosque, it's going to hit the news. It's going to hit every news out there. These things, what's flying way under the radar, and you've got to have people on the on the ground that are telling you about it, is the attack on the Christians and the consistent persecution. Because as far as Nigeria, but all throughout Africa, because this breaks it down into the three different categories: Christian persecution, modern era, and it goes Middle East, Africa, forced conversions and ethnic cleansing, global response. So there's, and I'm reading this blind. I was reading that blind, this article here, or this on this website, but just looking at it from Middle East, Africa, I mean, we don't talk about it in this country or really explain it, that in Africa today there are slave blocks where people are sold today, right now, but we got people over here protesting that they didn't get their bridge card or some other stupid shit, their latest handout here in a minority community, yet there are Christians being sold on slave blocks by Muslims in Africa today. You've got Christians being genocided throughout Asia, Africa, and the Middle East in mass, and if there's any reporting at all, it's a blip on the radar, and it's walking hand in hand with our foreign policy. We're facilitating these people to go in and do this genocide. When you were bringing up earlier, talking about what triggered me, I don't remember what you said something you said triggered me, and I said, of course the Israel and Jews that have that chip want to cite the Holocaust every single time. It doesn't matter what the situation is. If they need to justify some action on their end, the Holocaust, or claim their victim status, the Holocaust. I go, okay. At the beginning of World War II, no country wanted Jewish refugees coming into there were entire ships that were turned around and sent back to their country of origin, and nobody wanted the Jewish refugees that were fleeing specifically Germany. Nobody mentions that no countries wanted them until it came time for it would be politically expedient to accept them, because now we're accepting these victims, and the world, we can't deny anymore that they're victims, so now we'll accept them. But while they were on the boats and trying to flee ahead of what was coming, nobody wanted them. Not a single country wanted them out there. Okay? Here's another dynamic, and then you guys, I need you guys to respond to this. Russian Jews were murdered in mass throughout Russia and thrown in mass graves. Okay, but we don't talk about the genocide that Russia perpetrated on Russian Jews. We only focus on the victim status of Nazis and the concentration camps and the Holocaust. We don't think about the other political dynamics that were going on at the time, and we don't think about the cooperation that Hitler was doing with the leaders of the Jewish communities, because they were in league at one point to try to reestablish a Jewish nation. And they were offered by Russia to have their own parcels of land to establish a Jewish nation. There was even talk of establishing a Jewish nation in Africa, and those were both rejected. And what happens? We come out of that, we go to the Potsdam, or was the Balfour Declaration, whatever it was, to establish Israel after we formed the UN.
There's a movie about the Voyage of the Damned. I remember I was young at the time, but it was in the neighborhood I grew up in, Detroit. It was a.
What was it called? The Voyage of the Damned?
I thought it was called the Voyage of the Damned.
Okay.
And it was the ship that was, because the U.S. didn't let it in. Actually,
Right.
Roosevelt had strict quotas on immigration, that sort of thing.
Which conveniently affected the Jewish people fleeing Nazi Germany.
Right, and some people, there might be some Nazi spies in there or something on this ship.
Voyage
Of the Damned, I think it was called. And the name of the ship, was it the Saint Louis or the Normandy or something? Anyway, the ship went back, and I think so that they made the people go back, and some of them actually did die because the United States government would not let them decamp.
Well, this is CIA-pedia. I mean Wikipedia.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Voyage of the Damned, 1976 drama
Yeah.
film directed by Stuart Rosenberg with an all-star cast. Blah 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 blah. Those are some great names. The story was inspired by actual events concerning the fate of the ocean liner MS St. Louis carrying Jewish refugees from Nazi Germany to Cuba in 1939. It was based on the non-fictional book, the same title, blah, 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 the screenplay, let's go. Based on historic events, this dramatic film concerns the 1939 voyage of the German-flagged MS St. Louis that departed Hamburg with 937 Jews from Germany bound for Havana. But where does it say? The Cuban government, right there, the Cuban government refuses entry of passengers while the ship is on its way. And next, the liner heads to the United States and awaits off the Florida coast. Passengers learn that the United States also has rejected them, as Canada subsequently does, leaving the captain no choice but to return to Europe. The captain tells a confidant that he has received a letter signed by 200 passengers saying they will join hands and jump into the sea rather than return to Germany. He states his intention to run the liner aground on a reef in the southern coast of England to allow passengers to be rescued and reach safety. Shortly near the film's end, it is revealed that the government of Belgium, France, and Netherlands and the United Kingdom have agreed to accept their share of passengers. You're talking about 937 people. So even when you point out that our government balked at because of immigration, you're less than 1,000 people. But the sentiment at that time, the normal or the prevailing sentiment throughout the world was no.
Right, and I thought it was a movie in the '60s. Apparently, it was. I remember
1979.
1976. I remember
76,
that.
Is that said?
So a little bit later than I thought. But yeah, that was essentially the story.
Yeah, look at that. Faye Dunaway, Lee Grant, Max von Sydow, James Mason, even a young Malcolm McDowell.
It was a famous movie. It was
Huge. Look at, they've got the cast all around there, showing, on the poster.
It's a terrible situation.
It is.
Just
It
awful.
is. But again, it points out that we're not dealing simply with a one-size-fits-all victimhood status of just the Nazis just attacked the Jews, and there's the victim status. There was a lot of stuff going on, and you can't just chalk it up. And so when you have this one-size-fits-all attack right now, okay, that if you don't support what we're doing in Iran, then you're a Nazi and you hate Israel. And no, I hate the Israeli government. I love Jew. They've got a lot of Jewish people. They're great people. I may have Jewish ancestry. My last name's Soika. If you look up Soika from on my mom's side of the family, it's
I can smell it on you.
Thank you, Shane. Mexican fucker.
Well,
I wanted to add something.
Yeah.
Holocaust gets talked about a lot. Obviously, terrible thing that happened, but you never hear about the Holodomor, where more people were brutally killed in Ukraine, who were white people,
Yes.
than were even killed in the Holocaust. Scores of other, Armenian Genocide. How often do you hear about that? Not, I hear because Dennis brings it up to me, but in popular culture, it's very rare that you hear about the Armenian Genocide. Also, millions of people killed who were Christians. So this one instance, horrible instance, is brought up again and again and again to justify what Israel's doing today. The war crimes they're doing today.
Yeah.
If you try to question them, you're an anti-Semite, you're a Holocaust. But the Holocaust, we have to have the state of Israel. Otherwise, there'll be another Holocaust. So it's just baked in to these excuses, and they exploit the horrors that happened generations ago to do atrocities and horrors today in the modern
Well,
context.
and Dennis pointed out the Nazis. He wanted to make sure that we had the disclaimer in there of the Nazis, the neo-Nazis there in Ukraine. He started to say it, and I was like jumping in with him, and he says, "No, the neo-Nazis over there." And you go, they're the largest population of true, actual descendants to be neo-Nazis, make up the hierarchy of the Ukrainian army, and you go, the Nazis are so vilified, and rightly so, okay?
For the record, Nazis are bad.
Nazis are bad, all right? But the Nazi regime accounted for, on record, 20 million. The Stalin regime accounted for 40 million. The Mao regime accounted for 80 million. People killed, mostly civilian, in all three respects. Yet we don't hear anybody say, "Oh, you're acting like a Maoist," or we don't hear anybody say, "Oh, you're acting like some kind of KGB, Soviet agent." But we go, "Oh, you're a Nazi." That's the phrase that gets thrown out. You're a Nazi, right? We don't get thrown out these other ones, even though they exponentially killed more of their people. In the case of Russia, genociding Jews as well. And that $6 million or 6 million number is not the first time that's ever been thrown out. And they throw out the 6 million Jews, and they never mention the 5 million Poles and Czechs that were also killed when they account that number, 11 million total. They don't throw that in there. Well, you know what my family is? Polish Czechoslovakian. So I can claim my victim status and act like anything that I do while my people were attacked. It's all bullshit at the end of the day.
And they bring it up because, it's a part of the demoralization. If anyone who's a white or a Christian, you're the people that they want to replace. They want you gone. They want you removed from Europe. They want you removed from the United States. They want it all to, our heritage completely erased, and the liberties that come with our heritage. The people who basically forged our liberty were, as a matter of fact, white Europeans. And if you erase that heritage, you erase that history, our liberties go away with it, and they know 100%. That.
Well, it's the African dynamic that's huge right now. This is a huge dynamic. You had white Christian nationalists. They weren't perfect. We'll give them that. But they came in and improved the infrastructure throughout Africa. I mean, the Afrikaners are the only thing holding South Africa together right now, and they're being genocided right now. But the white Christian nationals that came in and built the infrastructure throughout Africa, there are places throughout Africa that the only thing left working is 80-year-old, 90-year-old, 100-year-old white Christian infrastructure that was built there because the African nations just are parasitical and they're not building their own infrastructure. They're living off of, when the pump dies, I guess they just don't have any water. When I think of the missionaries going over there and drilling new wells, I'm like, that's because the people there have never been moralized. We've been demoralized, but they've never been moralized to be inventive, to be have some ingenuity, and to build their own infrastructure. But that's what the history of the white European Christian nations has been for the last 200 plus years of coming in and creating infrastructure and ingenuity and bringing populations up. Now, there's been bad actors in all of those dynamics, but overall, it's been a net positive of building up different societies throughout the world, and now even that aspect has been perverted to just simple regime change and propping up our economy.
And in South Africa, you'll see the horrible, brutal murders of farmers there, where gangs of thugs will come in and beat farmers to death, rape their wives, and do all kinds of destroy the farm.
Who's the guy we had on?
Jocko.
Jocko, I loved him.
Jocko, he's involved in the fight against that on behalf of the Afrikaners.
And even talking about the people that were employed by them, that they had employed for years, suddenly coming in and invading and turning on the farmers.
Yep, it's despicable. And then you'll look at Soros type groups, leftist type groups, humanitarian groups. They'll talk about what are the problems in South Africa? Well, too many white farmers own land, and there's not enough parity of black farmers and white farmers there.
And the minute the black farmers take over a farm or start their own, they run it in the ground, and they're starving to death within 2 or 3 cycles, 2 or 3 years.
That's what happened in Zimbabwe, and
Yep.
it's happening very quickly in South
Yeah.
Africa now.
And Soros, I mean, great guy. I mean, he helped the Nazis round up Jews throughout. He was a Jewish guy
it was
who
thrilling.
helped.
It was thrilling
It
to
was,
do.
what did he say? It was a happy making time.
It was a happy time of my
Happy making time.
childhood.
Go, Dennis. You've been patiently waiting while we rambled.
Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
comment on. But what part? Well, also, we shouldn't forget the Soviet Bolshevik genocide of Christians, right? Right.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the early years of the Soviet Union. I mean, in Russia too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but you're right. They attacked Jewish people. It's just a horrible, horrible situations there. Murray Rothbard wrote an interesting article about war guilt in the Middle East when he goes and looks at all the different situations. Because the Jewish people were under horrible conditions there in Europe at a
Yeah.
certain point in the late 19th century, which should be done.
Yeah.
And they had basically 4 different options. And at the time, he says, the least popular one was the one to go to Palestine. But then eventually that became the one that was followed.
Yes,
And the
yes.
Rothschilds were involved in
You're exactly right.
financing a lot
Yeah,
of that.
yeah.
And when
what
people
was the whole area in Russia? They had a huge area. It was actually very good. It was very fertile, but it was a little bit more obviously countryside and not developed because they wanted to give them there was a huge area they were offered right at the beginning.
yeah,
And they were like, no, we want to go in a place where nobody wants us.
All right. Well, and here's the issue. When people say, can there be a state of a certain type? If you want to have an ethno-religious state, I guess that's one thing one could do. But now there's a problem if you impose that on other people who are of a different ethnicity or a different religion.
Yeah.
And this is what's happened here, and it's led to all sorts of problems. And it was not a land without people.
Yeah.
You know, Miko Peled, whose grandfather was a founder of the state of Israel and a general, and whose father was an Israeli general, has spoken quite eloquently about this. So he's done great work on this, as did Rothbard and Sheldon Richman. Among his articles, he's got a number of articles, including one called "Depopulating Palestine, Dehumanizing the Palestinians," or maybe it's the other way around. But
Right.
So he goes through this whole thing.
Yeah.
So the history is very interesting. But in Africa, so the other thing I would point out again, and then some of the people that are leading the fight against the Zionist supremacism are actually people of the Jewish faith who will say this actually is not Judaism. So you have
Exactly.
So you have an interesting thing here. You've got people within the Jewish faith, and Richmond's pointed out at one time the Zionism was a definite minority, and the majority of people didn't agree with that, and you had all these rabbis speaking out against it, and
Right.
it's kind of interesting to see.
Then it becomes popular, and now all of a sudden they want to.
Post Kennedy assassination, apparently that might be a coincidence. But
Well,
anyway,
but we were going to have that discussion too.
How we've been going an hour and a half. We haven't even talked about the USS Liberty yet. We're slipping.
Well, I was waiting for Barron to bring it up. He did bring up the Jewish autonomous oblast
Oh yeah, right,
in
right,
Far
right.
East Russia.
Yeah.
That was where they wanted to set it up.
Right.
Continue, Dennis.
Okay, so so I just want to say that there are people of the Jewish faith who oppose actually there being this kind of a state, and they said that that's not Judaism. And of course, within Christianity, there's a huge split about this now too. And it's people are going back and rereading the Bible and saying, "Hey, wait a minute,
Right.
This isn't right." So then you've got a man
And
like
if you look at the rising antipathy for the state of Israel and more broadly against Jews, it's emanating because of Netanyahu's war crimes.
They're
People
doing
are
it. They're
seeing
doing it themselves.
These war crimes happen in real
100%.
time. They can't be censored like they used to because of
Right.
social media, and it is radicalizing people and causing them to question everything. So the actual behavior of the government itself is causing more enmity against Israel
And
and the Jewish
that's the
people
same thing with
broadly.
radicalizing these foreign countries that say we hate America. It's the actions of the
Backfires.
government. Yeah.
right. So the questioning is good. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we could do to make it a positive thing is to say let's not fall into let's as we read in the Bible. I mean, we know that we shouldn't let evil take over. Don't we? And we want to do the right thing. So we want to not do the thing that we would criticize, say the Zionists for, and the Turkish Islamists and all these other people, and the Nazis. So we won't say, oh, you people are all this one thing. So we're going to say we want there to be a golden rule. We want there to be, frankly, the United States, if we had the principles of our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution in there, we could say people of different ethnicities and different religions are here, and everybody's got the same rights and the same responsibilities, and it doesn't, in your family background, doesn't apply here. It doesn't matter. It just you got to treat others as the golden rule. So we need to promote more golden rule, and we need to have good Samaritans. And unfortunately, it looks like the golden rule and the good Samaritans have been on the defensive, getting pushed back for a long
far
time.
Too long. I think we've shifted from the golden rule to the rule of gold, and whoever holds the gold is the one that's going to rule, versus the golden rule dynamic. But you raise a huge point. It's we have this blanket coverage of different populations, and it's amazing that we throw a blanket over them, and everybody's got to be taken out, okay? Well, that is a historical Old Testament dynamic of you're going to go in and wipe out the Canaanites, or wipe out the Jebusites, or wipe out the Hivites, or whatever it is. You're going to wipe it out. Yeah, you're going to wipe out this whole group. But there was a biblical justification for that dynamic, right? Now we're talking about wiping out people with no biblical justification just because we're lumping it in. And I fall back to this. All right, we tried Slobodan Milosevic. We had the Nuremberg trials. We've had different courts, okay? If you find an individual or a group of individuals, you put them on trial. That comes back to the foundation of our Constitution here of, listen, until you attack me, I have no justification to preemptively attack you until you commit that crime. And then when you do commit that crime, I want you held to the highest standard of law and punishment after you've been adjudicated, after you've been tried, because we know that they can rig those trials. I just recently, it kind of flew under the radar, but there was a new one. I want to say it was on Netflix, but there was one with Rami Malek, who did the Bohemian Rhapsody, got the Oscar for playing Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody, and he did the Mr. Robot TV show. Anyways, he's a psychiatrist in this, but I think the show is called Nuremberg, and I don't know how many parts it was.
Is it a movie or a show? Russell Crowe, right?
Yeah, I thought it was.
My dad's been telling me
6-part series.
My dad's been telling me to watch it. It's supposedly really good.
Really good, really good. And the main character, his name's escaping me, but he played in Superman. He was the bad guy.
Lex Luthor.
No, he was the other Kryptonite guy. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But he plays the main prosecutor in there, and he's got to work with these other prosecutors from other countries, because it was 4 main countries that were the head of prosecuting this. But my whole thing is, I took away from that. I watched that whole series, and I'm like, that's the way. When you have these war criminals, this is the way you do it. Yes, there are going to be other people that follow their orders that need to be held accountable. But to go in and just carpet bomb an entire population, if you've got terrorist cells, arrest who you can. But
There were terrorists in that school.
But we're doing it preemptively.
There were terrorists in the
before there's
hospital.
an attack. And then I watched this, and I don't know how much this pisses you guys off, but I watched stuff.
Probably a lot.
There's stuff going on in our country. The attacks. This. Look at this. Look at this. We had the shooting right here at the Whitehouse Correspondence Dinner. Okay, all right.
They didn't do security. They forgot to do security.
Forgot to do security. There's pictures of Kash Patel sitting there with his thumb up his ass, not doing anything, okay? You've got a slow roll on whether they're going to evacuate Trump or not evacuate Trump, and he's going to come back, he's not going to come back, and they finally depart this. And then the justification that comes out of it is, we need to build the ballroom on the White House. We really need to get this going. And I go, wait a minute. We're going to go and mount a military operation and attack a sovereign country with more dedication and fervor over trillions of dollars of weapons than we can even muster a little bit of tactical security at a dinner that the president's going to be at. Wait a minute.
It definitely makes me think there's some weird shit going on with that ballroom.
I look at that and I go, wait a minute. We've got people attacking us here in our country. We've got 20 to 40 million illegals, rough conservative estimates, that have crossed the border, among them Chinese military-aged men that have been trained, among them Iranians, among them Koreans, among them all sorts of other crazy fucking countries out there. But we're going to muster our military to go over and attack a sovereign country because they might do something. These motherfuckers right here have already done it. They've already invaded our country. They've literally invaded our country, and we're sitting here like idiots doing nothing. And I'm the first one to say, until you do something, I'm not going to attack. Well, you came across the border illegally. That's something. Iran's been trying to get nuclear weapons for the last 47 years, according to 47. No,
excuse me. They had a fatwa against it, and I talked about.
I know. I'm giving you
Allegedly.
the Fox talking points.
And Martin Van Creveld said, and he's not the only one. They've not taken the moves to get that. One of the ironies is, Trump murdered, or the Israelis, or probably, anyway, the U.S.-Israel coalition murdered the Ayatollah who'd issued the fatwa. No nuclear weapons.
Right.
He said they're un-Islamic. We murdered him during Ramadan, right? Which is like the holy month?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not good.
In his home, and killed him, his wife, his daughter-in-law, his granddaughter, and apparently the son is injured. It was probably the same strike. I don't know if we know that, but potentially the son who is there. So if you're that guy, if you're his son, you're saying, well, maybe my dad got it wrong here. Maybe he's thinking that. And and you know that Kim in North Korea is going, I told you so.
Told you to get weapons, because the only way you're going to stop America from attacking you, and maybe even be your buddy and back you in your next war, is be like Israel and get your own nuclear weapons and don't conform to the nuclear, what's the
the non-proliferation treaty. So Iran signed that non-proliferation treaty, and there's no evidence that they weren't violating it. The Israelis, on the other hand, by the way, I just want to point out, they never signed the non-proliferation treaty. They evidently have lots of nuclear weapons. Mm-hmm. According to the Symington and Glenn amendments, the U.S. is prohibited from giving financial or military support to any country that has a nuclear program, weapons or otherwise, and hasn't signed the NPT. And then they said, we better put an escape clause in here. So, there could be a presidential waiver.
Yeah, just like AIPAC not having to register.
Right. So they said the president can say, you know what, I know this, but send them aid anyway. Okay. But they've never issued that waiver for the state of Israel, because the state of Israel doesn't want the president to do that. And allegedly, I remember Scott Horton talking about this, and he had the information. Apparently, Jared Kushner and might have been Friedman, the ambassador at that time, was. But anyway, they said, Trump's got to sign this. At first, Trump said, I ain't signed nothing. Eventually, he did. Now, there are a couple countries that also have nuclear programs and actually have nuclear weapons. Mm-hmm. Didn't sign the NPT, but do get aid. I think that's India and Pakistan, but they get presidential waivers. So a man named Grant Smith has talked about how we've had hundreds of billions of United States dollars sent illegally to the state of Israel, which supports the Israeli government, which then uses them, among other things, to attack people, to destroy civilians, to destroy civilian infrastructure. And by the way, for those who are listening that are opposed to abortion, the medical abortion, not just post-birth abortion or abortion through military attacks, but apparently Israel is a very liberal regime when it comes to funding abortions. It's either on demand or pretty darn close to it. And I wonder how many Americans are aware of that.
Most of their leadership is very atheistic, unless it becomes advantageous to quote a scripture verse or two to get the Zionists wound up.
They don't believe in God, but they believe that God promised.
20, however many thousands.
The book of Joshua says, I think he says, I've not fulfilled all my promises. And that's pre-Christ.
Right.
And also, you look at since they murdered the Ayatollah, the more hardcore Revolutionary Guard has more power in Iran than ever before.
Yeah.
And they're going to be more likely probably to want to pursue...
Be militaristic.
Yeah, want to pursue getting more weapons, getting nukes.
Yeah.
Because they know what can happen. It already has happened.
Well,
that it's not going to, even if there is some kind of peace that is brokered between the countries eventually, how long will that last? You know, like when there was peace after the initial Gulf War, that lasted about 10 years.
Yeah.
And they came in, killed
Right.
Saddam, did the whole regime change.
Because Saddam
nation-building
got a little
bullshit.
uppity and was going to change. He was going to start selling oil again in Iraqi dinar. Go back to dinar.
So
Well,
why would Iran is incentivized, and any rogue regime is incentivized, any regime in general is incentivized to want nuclear weapons. I believe Poland even said shortly after Iran got attacked was we're looking into getting nuclear weapons ourselves. So every country that is rational now is going to want to do that.
Is going, we need to have equal. Well, it's the same thing as gun rights here in America. It's the reason why our founding fathers put that in was the right to keep and bear arms was to equalize the playing field. And you've got countries out there that are at the whim of being attacked by nuclear-powered specifically the United States and obviously Israel, nuclear-powered countries. And they're going, maybe we need our own nuclear just to keep you from attacking us because we can give the mutually assured destruction threat back to you. And I look at this dynamic. Look at you went through the whole list, Dennis, of people that were taken out, right? That were the leadership. The last few conferences that they've had with J.D. Vance for peace negotiations, who escorted the planes back to Iran?
Pakistan.
The Pakistani government. And does Pakistan and India have a history of threatening to nuke each other? Yes, they do, because they possess nuclear weapons, okay? So this is a huge dynamic, is when Poland says, you know what, maybe we need to get a nuclear weapon because apparently the threat of us getting a self-protected weapon is a threat in and of itself, and the only country that's ever dropped a nuclear bomb might threaten to drop a nuclear bomb on us if we get a weapon that would equalize the playing field.
Yep.
It becomes fucking ridiculous.
You need it to secure your sovereignty against the out of control U.S. empire. You need a nuke.
Right. That plus, and that ties into something else, the financial and economic part, right?
Yeah.
And a number of people brought this up. And I mentioned Vince Lance because he's talked about this quite a bit. He's not the only one.
Right.
But again, Vince is very knowledgeable about this. That's why these countries were accumulating gold to have their own gold reserves. Why they're repatriating gold back to their own countries.
Right.
So it ties into that. So what's happening is this breakdown of trust, the deglobalization. So there's trade globalization where people, and again, we have these supply chains are intricate, they're international, they are global in nature, and there's a benefit to that, actually. We don't want to have one world government, but we also don't want to have autarky, where you can't trade with somebody in some other location.
Our country, Dennis.
There are advantages of trade. You know,
Yeah.
some countries have different goods and services, can produce them. Others can't, and it makes sense.
Right.
To
Our
trade
country
with
was
other countries.
founded on foreign trade as being the economic vehicle to support our federal government. Long before
The
anything
founding
else.
fathers
with
were
the founding-
foreign tea smugglers.
They were like, well, not only that, but
yeah.
they're like the tariffs were the one thing when they were legitimate and justification
small
to
tariffs,
support the federal government on that dynamic. And so that is one of the viable things is this foreign trade. You're going to buy goods and service or goods mainly from other countries. But continue, Dennis.
Right. And I just on the tariff thing, and Jim Bovard, who hopefully we can get for a future session, he's a brilliant man and a very nice fellow and that sort of thing. He's written about this, how it was the common man that didn't want to have high tariffs because they said that raises our cost to buy these imported
True.
goods.
Yes.
And we want to sell agriculture overseas, and then they get mad at us on our cost of raising the agriculture. So it gets to be a tangled web.
Right. It's got to be a wise decision to use tariffs properly.
Well, and as we know with governments, what looks like a
Wisdom's-
wise decision eventually.
Exactly.
So anyway, so this is a long discussion. We don't have time for all of it, but the other thing I was going to say about that was what we are seeing now is this breakdown of trust, and I think what U.S. governments have done for a long time, and what Trump has intensified now, is a shattering of that trust, and so that's why we're seeing and I didn't realize that Poland had said that, Shane. That's interesting. I knew that they had been big buyers of gold. They might have sold some recently. I thought I read, but I know they've been big buyers, and of course Turkey, a lot of the Azerbaijan, unfortunately, has been stocking up. But these countries are doing these sort of things, and they're thinking about this in sort of like isolationist terms.
Yeah.
Is we better have our gold, we better have our armed security,
Right.
because who knows what's going to happen, and so that's one of the things that again, when you get too powerful, hubris takes over.
Yep.
And this is what the U.S. government has done, and that's why the whole thing with the SWIFT system and weaponizing the dollar and the petrodollar, and pushing all these people around. What we ended up, not we, what the people, the savages and business suits of the Leviathan state did was they pushed together a lot of countries that in the past maybe had been not so friendly to each other. So that's what we were seeing some degree of
creating coalitions with people that would not have otherwise coalesced.
Right, and then our
We've pushed China and Russia together through all of our actions so much that now they're pretty much intertwined. The Trump administration could have, that was a big thing they could have done, was normalized relations with Russia as a way to prevent them from being closer to China. We've done the exact opposite.
It would have been huge to come together with Russia and go, you were falsely accused, this Russia. It would have been a huge swing the other way to go, not only is it Russia collusion, but we're going to be transparent and upfront, and we're going to partner with Russia on a lot of these trade deals and a lot of these things going on, because Russia, for better or worse, Putin has had a huge push for Christian, a more Christian society, supporting the growth of families, doing a lot of other good things in the country, knowing what it was to be involved in that country when it was under Soviet control and the oppression that was going on. He's been a champion on that. I loved him when he schooled Tucker, not that Tucker needed to be schooled, but he was doing it for the audience. But he just lectured Tucker for a 2.5 hours or something like that, before he really let Tucker even ask him some questions. He's like, wait a minute, Tucker, are you interviewing me? Then I'm going to give you a history lesson on what's actually going on before you launch into a question, because this might alter your question if you actually hear the history of what's going on. And the Orthodox Christians throughout Russia, they went underground for a while, but they have always had a strong foothold in that country. And so there was an opportunity there to not vilify them further, but to partner with them. Instead, we sided with Ukraine because that kept strong nations apart by siding with Ukraine and doing a money laundering over there. Dennis, continue with your...
Okay, well, since you brought up the Orthodox churches, and you see what Ukraine's done to the Orthodox Church, what the Ukrainian government has done. So you could look at this, we talked about the persecution of Christians overseas, and when you look at it's like there's been a war on Eastern Christians, a war on the Orthodox churches.
Yeah.
And interestingly now, apparently the Orthodox Church some people say is booming. And I just saw an article, I haven't read it yet, but it said, from Moscow to Montana, a lot of people are going and looking at that.
Yep.
And I got
we had Austin on here talking about that.
A little aside, I went to a week ago, a week and a half ago, to the fundraiser for the St. Joseph's Church in Detroit. They're a traditional Latin Mass church.
Okay.
And they're raising money to expand, have a campus, community center, really, kind of revitalize the whole community in Detroit. Mm-hmm. And one of my friends just messaged me that they made from that one fundraising dinner $535,000 from that fundraiser alone, and that was up from maybe 170,000 the year before, and that is also more than what most churches in the area will fundraise over the course of an entire year.
Right.
So it's what's growing. It's the traditional Latin Mass. Yeah. Tons of young families there.
Because
that's what people are seeking out. They want traditionalist Catholicism or Orthodoxy. Yeah. Because this church where you go and it's like a rock show and there's the laser lights and there's Paula White out there doing on the floor shaking and doing fake exorcisms. People don't want to speaking in tongues. People have had enough of that shit.
I speak in tongues.
And I'll say there's a third. Yeah, I was speaking just of Orthodox, but yes, the traditional Catholic, and I think also among the Protestant evangelicals, the traditional, it's like Tom Wood said, he looks at Paula White, he goes, well, Martin Luther and Calvin and Knox, and he said, what would they say about this, right? So,
I don't think they'd be happy about it.
No, so traditional Protestant, we have the hymnal we sing, yes. and we love our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and we want to have that personal relationship, and it should be, as I say, now we get together in the Armenian community, we have 4 different Armenian churches here in the Detroit area.
Okay.
One is Armenian Catholic, two Orthodox, St. Sarkis and Dearborn and St. John's in Southfield, where we just had the commemoration, and it's beautiful. Everybody was commenting about that.
Yeah.
And then our church, we are Armenian Evangelical.
Okay.
But all four work together. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ. We also have the ethnic thing, and so we keep alive our Armenian language, Armenian culture, and all that. And all through as we heard in our sermon today, all through the prism and the lens of the love that Jesus Christ showed for us by being the toughest man ever born, coming down as love came to earth, the Word made flesh,
Yes.
leaving the exalted status in heaven and coming down and becoming human and going through all the things that humans go through, and then suffering the very unjustified torment that he did before he was raised from the dead.
Yeah.
And we now have salvation through grace, with belief in Jesus Christ, and so that unites us all, and so we all need to work together and recognize that, and the Great Commission to go out and promote that, even if others don't like it, even if others celebrate their offspring rejecting Jesus Christ,
Right.
even if others won't even say his name, we will do that because we will put Christ before Caesar.
Absolutely. What words do you know in Armenia, Christian-wise? Do you know like love or?
Well, let's see. Well, Christos is Christ. That's an easy one, you know.
Yeah.
And then we sing the Higher Mayor. Okay, so I can say that's the Lord's Prayer in the Armenian language.
Okay.
And that's a beautiful thing. And we sing, and today we sang it, Der Vorgormia, which Lord have mercy. And sometimes in the service.
So is Armenian is that along the Greek, Aramaic, or is it along?
It's very separate. It's an Indo-European language.
Okay,
but
so it comes back around, might be kind of a little bit of a, not quite German, but
no, definitely not German. But it's pretty much it's pretty much.
I'm trying to picture my language tree in my head right now of where.
I've seen some people show this, but I think it was one of the earliest languages, and so maybe some others were influenced by it in certain ways. But really, it's not a Romance language certainly, and it's not a Semitic language.
Okay.
But the Armenian language maybe is one that's pretty unique.
Because when you just said Christos, that
well, that. So
speaks.
there might be a couple of examples of that. The one Armenian word, the one English word that I think might have Armenian roots. In fact, somebody verified this for me the other day. Is the word carpet, and the reason for that would be because I knew my grandfather was from Carpet, and he was a Carpetsy.
Okay.
And I thought, well, that's interesting. Now sometimes it's called harput, or carpet or carpet, but Marco Polo first saw rugs going through Armenia, and he wrote about that.
Right.
And I said, I'll bet he first saw rugs in carpet, and he called them carpets. And somebody looked up and said, you know what? They either Googled it or something. They said, that's what it says right here. So that's the one.
I love that. See, Dennis, that's one of the things I love, and we don't always get a huge amount of time to sit down and. But that's the type of little details that I love to have discussions about, because when you go down those rabbit trails and you go, oh, that word and this thing and that, and you it's like just the idea. I love a couple words I love, like tradition, right?
Oh yes.
Trade.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Tradition comes from trade, and you realize the reason I'm giving you a tradition is I'm trading you my knowledge and experience for your youth and your vitality. And so I'm passing down a tradition. Now go and help me do what I want to do on the farm, because I'm getting old and I need your help. It's this idea. And so we get these fundamental, we lose so much of the dynamics. The kids are taught to sight read now. They don't even understand phonics. They don't even understand the definitions of words. So when we come back to this dynamic of different languages, I want to know. So when you said Christos, I could think Greek, I could think Latin, I could think a lot of those languages right in that line of when you said Christos, and I'm like, okay, Christos. All right, I'm thinking about that, because I've studied Greek and Hebrew, obviously biblical Greek and Hebrew. So I think about these different words. So when I'm asking you about that, you're doing traditional masses in Armenia. I'm like, or you're at least doing some of that.
Not masses, they would say, but
Services,
liturgy,
liturgical,
liturgy, or just the Protestant churches.
Yeah.
But there'd be very few of the. If you heard it, that'd be I heard Christos. Everything else you'd go like, I'm not familiar with it. But Higher Mayor actually literally means father of the Armenians.
Okay.
But our father, or Armenian father, or
right.
And then there's other stuff as well. But it's beautiful. If you ever hear the liturgy, and again in the Protestant church, in the evangelical church, we'll sing a couple things in Armenian, and we have Armenian and English messages. But if you go to one of the Orthodox or Apostolic churches and you hear it,
Yeah.
it takes a while, but it's beautiful pomp, beautiful, and it really has great majesty to it. And you hear all the music, and it is all
Right.
quite
and
moving.
and isn't it what people they're gravitating towards this dynamic, especially there's an ebb and flow, and I love the study of Galatians in particular, because Paul, when he's writing Galatians, he's really laying out. He's like, you were at first empowered by the Spirit of God, and you rejected the law, and now you're coming back under the law. And did Christ die for nothing? Did you get the Spirit for nothing if you're going to achieve it by human goals? And then he gets this, and then he comes to chapter 6, and I love there's so many different dynamics of chapter 6. He didn't have chapters, he was writing a letter, but he's like, God cannot be mocked. Whatever man sows, he's going to reap. It's like whatever you sow into, that's what you're going to reap. And I look at these dynamics of people have come to a place where they're like, this lawlessness, this anarchy, this lack of a fundamental foundation and a guidepost for me is not helpful. I need something that, listening to the book of Jasher yesterday and today, just listening to it, and it's like there was this moral compass, because the book of Jasher is an expansion on Genesis and fills in a lot of details, all right, but it was excluded because it didn't fit the mold, of the canon of the 66 books. Well, the Ethiopian canon is like 88 books or something like that. They got a whole bunch of other ones. So I'm just listening to it, and I'm going through it, and this dynamic of this moral compass just keeps coming up. This thing of the Lord, it's like unless the Lord tells you that's not a good thing for you, that's going to destroy you, that's going to mess you up, then people have this free-for-all. In fact, there's a whole expansion of Sodom and Gomorrah, the dynamics of Sodom and Gomorrah. We get like, I don't know what it is, 10 verses or something like that, or whatever it is for a lot of what the actual was going on there. And this expands so much of what they were doing, and it was crazy, okay? And so when you get back to that orthodoxy or that foundational thing, people are looking for structure. And I come from a very charismatic Protestant dynamic where there's structure, but there's more of the, not quite the Paula. I mean, I've listened to Paula White in the past years ago, right? But I never bought a book and never touted her things. But it's people don't thrive in a
You see the video of Paula White saying, "Oh yeah, sometimes I take the Bible and I write myself into the Bible. Take out Joseph, put in Paula White." Dead serious. Dead serious.
But it's this dynamic of people are they're hungering for a level, because look at this. Dennis, people you're attending church with, Shane, if he ever goes, it's got to be is it a Spanish mass? I don't know.
I can only understand the word in Espanol.
But you've got people, every single person there, other than the staff, is voluntarily there on their own accord.
Yeah.
There's nobody pointing a gun at you to attend those services. Now, you may feel obligated in familial obligations and other things like that, and the kids are obligated with their parents. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about there's no coercion of a threat of life on you to attend these services. So they're gravitating towards a voluntary experience of a high level of structure for their religious experience. That should tell us something about the psyche of people. Is the Israelites, read the Old Testament, right? But also modern churches, is we like a certain level of structure because it tells us where our boundaries are. It gives us something. If I know where the fence is, then I can bump off the fence. If I know where my property line is, then I don't try to plant a garden in my neighbor's yard. It's like giving yourself boundaries, giving yourself a line creates a safety or a security in and of itself. And we're looking at an entire governmental dynamic that has superseded any levels of boundaries to where we're saying, you're a sovereign nation, but for the last, whatever the number is, years, you've threatened to get nuclear weapons. Well, enough is enough. we're going to go ahead and put our foot down now on you as a sovereign nation who's never invaded anybody and never actually used a nuclear weapon ever, and we're going to threaten you with a nuclear weapon, and we're going to threaten you with...
They've been 3 weeks away from getting the bomb for 30 years.
And we're going to threaten to wipe you out and your entire population, civilian and all. Oh, and by the way, we're going to accidentally bomb a school with 142 little girls in it, and we're not going to own up to it and face the music on it until we're called out multiple times and we finally go, yeah, it may have been us. Yeah, our bad, my bad. That's 142 souls sent into eternity that you're accountable for. That ledger's on you.
Right, and the whole thing's a lie anyway, because I think they know that Iran hasn't been going for a nuclear weapon, though this might change now. So it's all based on
like
the lie.
Tulsi Gabbard said, all the intelligence report says that they are not building a nuclear weapon. You know, they have ability to enrich uranium, and that could potentially be used for a nuclear weapon, but there was never any evidence pointing that they were building one right now.
Well, and then you've got the other factions that say they've had nuclear weapons for years, and the problem is that they lack the delivery system for it. You know, you've got both factions that say they've had nukes for decades, but they lack the delivery system, so we got to knock down their missiles. Well, they just demonstrated that they can launch a lot of missiles throughout the Middle East, and if they wanted to launch a nuke, they could have taken out Israel multiple times. So what are we talking about here? It all becomes... So if we don't institute our own boundaries and our own limitations, right? Isn't that what our founding fathers did?
Yep.
They set up a constitution and they said, okay, these are reserved to the rights of the people. That doesn't make them lawless, but this is reserved to the rights of the people. And here we're gonna institute a Bill of Rights that says the right of the people to free speech and the press shall not be infringed. All right, the right of people to keep bear arms shall not be infringed. You have the right to be secure in your possessions and your papers. You have the right to... All these dynamics, they were restrictions and they were restraints upon the government that they were setting up. They were setting up this government saying, you know what? There might be somebody that gets elected a few years from now in my position that might fuck this all up. So we're going to put a restraint on them.
So are we seeing this? That's a great point there, Jeremy. I mean, they put their hands on the Bible, and it's a contract, right? And
yes.
And they sort of the Almighty. So do we see ramifications of their violating this in other areas besides these overseas wars? I mean, in terms of like what we're seeing economically with the prices going up on all the things necessary for living. And on spying on us and on our freedom of speech and things of that nature. Do we see this in other areas too?
Oh, 100%, absolutely. Tonight I made corned beef for you guys, some cornbread casserole, and my mother-in-law made her homemade coleslaw. How was the corned beef, guys?
It was great.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
So I bought, or I would probably say my mother-in-law, one of our trips to Myers, bought corned beef back for St. Patrick's Day. That was not that long ago, right? St. Patrick's Day? Not that long ago, guys.
What, a month and a half ago, maybe?
Okay. So the corned beef that I cooked for you guys today on the grill, or on the smoker, 6-hour smoke, melt in your mouth.
Yes. Dennis
is going to take some home to his wife.
That's a surprise. Don't listen to
me.
Oh,
my bad.
Yeah.
All right.
No, that's okay.
Was $4.50 a pound.
Seems about normal.
Yeah. Today we were in Myers getting some other stuff, just our normal trip to Myers. I got to chaperone my mother-in-law because she'll go out of control. Anyways, $8 a pound for corned beef, for the same corned beef that we bought a month and a half ago for $4.50. That's
the price you got to pay for national security.
Now that could be a sale, because it's a traditional thing to do on St. Patrick's Day, okay? But I walk in and I've got a corned beef in my freezer that's at least 2/3 of the size of the one that I saw in the store today. And that one I brought out and showed you guys, $10.50 was the purchase price, or I said it to you guys, right? And you said, is that the cost per pound? I was like, no, that's the price. And one that I picked up today was a nice big one, okay? But the one I had in my freezer was probably about 2/3 of that size. was $41. That's why I had to look up the prices. And Shane, you sent me this one. I'm going to pull it up real quick.
Yes.
It was on, there it is. I'm going to go to the Google Wellfield.
Oh, yeah.
So since the start of the Iran war, sulfur, 57%.
Jet fuel, 52%.
Urea, 51%.
Diesel, 48%.
Gasoline, 36%.
Fertilizer, up 35%.
Heating oils, 32%.
WTI crude oil, 28%.
West Texas. Brent crude oil, up 26%.
European natural gas, up 21%. I don't know if that had anything to do with the pipeline being blown up.
Oh, yeah.
Coal, up 12%.
Palm oil, up 10%.
Iron ore, which I'm very familiar with growing my family having been from the UP, up 8%.
Rice, up 7%.
The S&P, up 4%.
Yeah, it doesn't even compare to going in there. Yeah. And what's the...
That's the volatility index.
The volatility index is down 12%.
Do you believe that? So many people are looking at this and going, this, you know.
It can't be right. But that's the dynamics that we're dealing with, is all of these things are escalating. And I go, wait a minute, this is the president we believed in to make America first, or make America great again, right?
Yeah.
Put America first, and yet, and not engage in a foreign war.
And keep in mind, all this stuff is happening now after people, beginning of the year or end of last year, got their Obamacare or healthcare prices, and the cost of their premiums had already doubled and tripled.
Right.
And now this is what they're having to pay on top of that.
Correct. And what do we say, Dennis? You're a good economic guy. Is inflation a tax by other means? Isn't that the phrase?
As Dr. Ron Paul says, and as Gypsy Magic says, inflation is the cruelest tax of all. And so inflation is really growth in the supply of money and credit. I mean, and then deflation is. But if you look at price levels, you say, holy smokes, what's going on here? And so we have at least two factors. One is the monetary inflation, with the big spending and the Fed monetizing the debt. And then the other is all these different impediments to either manufacturing or transporting goods and services. And now the concern is, I think we're talking about this while we're having our supper, that there could be energy lockdowns that'll make the COVID lockdowns look like a picnic.
Well, they're already doing it in Australia. They're already doing it in certain countries in the European Union. Australia is huge. Australia right now is rationing their fuel right now, and they're shutting things down based on the idea that they're going to have to ration it. Whether that was a trial run. The pandemic was a trial run to see what people were willing to put up with, and we watched it. I watched every once in a while. I still see it. I still see an older person walking in with a face mask on, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing, man? Listen, I've done asbestos removal. I've done it with my crew, okay? I know what masks work. I've gone through all the masks. The mask that you're wearing is bullshit. And if it's simply just a little paper mask, you're causing more detriment to yourself. It's a diaper on your face. It's literally the diaper on your face. You're rebreathing your... Dude, did we not watch the movie about the fake potential moon landing of Apollo 13? Okay, and what was one of the big problems in the movie? CO2 buildup. Well, put a mask on your face without an outlet, and you're going to have immediate CO2. They've done it. They've stuck a meter inside of a mask of a little kid and put the mask on him, and within 10 minutes, he is in danger of CO2 brain, not just rebreathing of CO2, but in danger of brain damage from the amount of CO2 that he's breathing back in because the mask is on his face and the meters are going off. I'm required as a builder to put CO2 alerts, CO2, the boxes of CO2 and the fire things. I'm required, if I build a new house for a client, I'm required to make sure that my electrician comes in and installs CO2 and carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide meters in the house, because your furnace can leak. It can have a cracked coil and leak natural gas and cause other problems, or the exhaust can leak into it. I'm required by that. But we put little masks on our kids, and they're rebreathing their own their own exhalation and poisoning themselves within 10 minutes. They're suffering from brain asphyxia. They're having headaches. That's the shit that we're dealing with in this country, and we're not addressing those types of issues while we're going over and bombing somebody else and killing civilians and doing all this other things. We're going, they planned that pandemic, and now they're going to ration out the food. What did the guy that does the thing that is served in our government for years, under many presidents?
Who Netanyahu?
No.
Henry Kissinger.
Henry Kissinger.
Okay.
What did Henry Kissinger said that food, as well as water, is going to be one of the biggest weapons of control or vehicles of control throughout the world, and that's what we're doing with this. This shit is leading to this. You cut down the amount of fertilizer coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. You cut down. That's what I think you said, the urea in that list that we read. Okay, what is urea? It's one of the fundamental.
Urethra?
No, urea is one of the fundamental
Ingredients
in fertilizer. Yeah, it's huge. Let's go to this one. Since Shane, you sent this over here.
Yes.
This is what's the wrong one? Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, Kobe.
Food inflation is set to accelerate in the U.S.
Average inflation for food and beverage companies surged 7.9% year over year in March, the biggest jump in at least 12 months. This is up 373 basis points from 4.2% in February.
The largest jump was recorded in tomatoes at over 102% year over year, vegetables at over 90% higher, and diesel at 88% higher.
This is largely driven by higher fuel costs, meaning the full impact of rising fertilizer and plastic prices has not yet been reflected.
Meanwhile, urea prices, the world's most widely used nitrogen fertilizer, have doubled since February to $900 per metric ton, the highest since 2022.
Fertilizer costs are rapidly rising for farmers and will eventually translate into higher wholesale food prices before landing on grocery store shelves.
Food inflation is set to accelerate. Look at that, 7.9 right there. In just March alone, up quite a bit from February. This is the amazing thing, guys. We're looking at these. These are the ground levels. That's why, we didn't get a chance to have Black Pill Teddy on the show. But this is one of the things that Black Pill Teddy is looking at.
Yeah, like young men, around his age are like, I'm never getting a house. Look at this shit.
Exactly.
And you look at this, some of those other numbers were small percentages. But if you compound that over time, and this is what's happened is what this does over. If you look at these prices, look at prices today here in 2026 compared to the turn of the century.
Right.
Right. What we had, and you'd be astounded by the changes. It's like holy
But
smokes.
look, okay, but come back to this one. Dennis. All right, March 2025,
Yeah.
right? 3.9, then drops in April, 2.7, 2.8, 3.6, 4. It never gets above 4.6, okay? And that was in August 2025. Now you fast forward and you come over to March, and February was 4.2. Now it's 7.9. That is, going back to August 2025, that is still a 3.3 percentage jump. Now, it's almost a doubling.
Right. Yeah. So basis points, and when they say basis points, it's because if we say it's almost a doubling. It's not up 3%. So it's up 373 basis points, which is almost a doubling. Which shows
it's almost a doubling.
Yeah.
So what you think is, that's not a big deal. It's just a it's up. It's only up like 3 point from the previous month. It's only up 3.7%. Okay, well when you start at only 4%, a 3.7% rise from a 4.2% rise is almost a doubling of it. So think
they were already already you're already getting killed at 4%.
So think of it
now
from,
you're just getting massacred.
Okay, so think of it from this simple perspective. Gas was at let's be real conservative. Say it was at $2 a gallon, just for the sake of doing math. Okay. Well, that type of increase on gas, if we went from 4.2 and say that's the $2 a gallon, and all of a sudden we're at 7.9, that's $3.90 a gallon. So you went from $2 to now $3.90, almost $4 a gallon. That's almost a doubling. That's what it means. I was able to fill up my truck at, for $35-40. Now it's costing me upwards of $90, $80 to $90 to fill up my truck for the same amount of fuel. And what's changed? Inflation and a war.
Right. The value of your money's gone down.
100%.
So people tend to look at it and say, well, the prices at this store, or this restaurant, or this place, they have high prices. Really what's happened is the government's destroying the money. And what you have the politicians and their wealthy patrons working together. It's not the free market. It's an anti-free market corporatism.
Crony capitalism.
Yeah, well, or crony socialism or crony corporatism.
Correct.
And one of the worst things is what they do to the value of the money. But that's another reason why, like this Rick Rule points out, he says if you price some of these objects in gold compared to where they were in 2000, they look cheap. But if you use the dollar or any other local currency, then you say, oh man, look what's happened there. So there's a lot that's happening, and so some people are saying you got to be prepared. One way or another, so people just have to research it. We're not going to give them, as John Palomny says, he's very smart on these things.
Yeah.
He says, this is not investment advice. I'm not your advisor. Do your due diligence. It's your money. It's your responsibility. But people have to be aware of what some of these questions are. And frankly, a lot of this, it's been going on and on and on. And we had a huge, well, of course, 1971 cutting the last link to between the gold and dollar, that really, the dollar and gold really hurt, and you can see where it shoots up there.
Right.
But then more recently, the CARES Act, where the heroic Tom Massey said, I'm not going to let you destroy our republic in an empty chamber by acclamation.
Yeah.
If this is that important, then we should go and vote on it.
Yeah.
Now Massey was fighting against Nancy Pelosi. Whose side did Donald Trump take? Tom Massey's side of doing his duty and going into the Congress, or Nancy Pelosi said, let's just do it on the sly and violate the rules. What did Donald Trump say? Whose side did he take?
He trashed Massey.
Trashed Massey, went with Pelosi.
He took Pelosi's
the
side.
chick who set him up for Jan 6.
So Trump took Nancy Pelosi's side, and now we have Tom Massey, and this has done terrible things to our economy, and it's really been everything out of shape, and it's causing a lot of pain for the middle class and the lower income people as well.
Yeah.
Now Thomas Massey is running for re-election,
and they're trying to primary him out.
and they spent $10 million on that. And he said,
Yeah.
you know what? They just lost that big redistricting fight in Virginia. If Chris LaCivita had focused on that, instead of trying to get rid of the one guy in Congress that actually does his job, that actually upholds his oath
The
of
one
office.
guy that's voted 95% with Trump.
And not only
Right.
did Chris LaCivita blow $10 million of elite donor money on Thomas Massey, he's also blown over $100 million of donor money on trying to save the career of Rhino Senator John Cornyn in Texas, who he's also consulting for. Who else is Chris LaCivita? Who was the guy?
Didn't they announce that they were releasing some money for our own backyard here?
Yeah, so Chris LaCivita, he's also the consultant for Mitch McConnell in South Carolina, as well as our
turtle?
very own Mike Rogers here in
Mike
Michigan.
Rogers.
Don't
So-
say it ain't so.
Yeah.
So there you have it. There's the
I thought
one
there
of the
was like
main
a-
people
I thought
who
there
is
was like a-
selling one of the main people who is selling MAGA down the river, Chris LaCivita, former campaign manager, longtime establishment GOP consultant in Washington
I
D.C.
thought that they had released like $40 or $50 million from the general coffers to help our very own favorite Roger.
Yeah, they are pumping tons of money into Mike Rogers here in Michigan. You know, they got their guy. They
Even though
know-
Genevieve Peter Scott or a couple of the other candidates would have been phenomenal.
Oh, Genevieve Peter Scott. How is she? Tell me about her.
I haven't talked to her since
We brought her on the show,
Yep.
and you know, she's libertarian-minded, Republican and
She
good
is
friends with
phenomenal.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
she's
And
phenomenal.
perfect on the issues. She was there at January 6th fighting back against election fraud, so
And she was at
she'd
the
be
late,
perfect.
the Washington dinner.
She was at our Washington Day dinner. She was one of the sponsors for Grand New Party Pack,
Phenomenal.
so
We need to get her back on the show.
we
Reach out
gotta,
to her.
Yep, we gotta bring her back on for sure.
Let's catch up a little bit in chat. Gypsy Magic's talking about classic imperialism, roughly from 1791 to 1914, was the policy of industrial nations, expanding power by seizing foreign territories, establishing formal colonies, and using military force to ensure economic dominance, resources, extraction, market control. And then you get your Weimar wheelbarrows ready, folks. I will speak to that. I actually have held uncanceled Weimar Republic notes. What the hell are the notes called?
Reichsmarks?
Reichsmarks, yes.
Reichsmark.
Prior to World War II, they were gold-backed Reichsmarks, and if they didn't have a punch hole in them, then they haven't been redeemed. I've held unredeemed Reichsmarks, which the reconstituted German government is accountable for, but they're worth, because of inflation, not because their actual paper worth, they're worth billions of dollars, and you have to get approval. I've watched pieces of paper come across my computer screen and are, of course, printed out on my desk that required, at the time I was doing it, Obama's signature in order for the trade to go forth. And if you didn't hold the actual currency in your hand, if you were brokering on a third party, it was hit or miss whether you were going to get paid. And then the '08 crash happened, and I was no longer driving a Bentley. I was back driving my pickup truck. So that happens. But yeah, I was involved in some of those things to realize that during the Weimar Republic, 6 months earlier, you had a nest egg that you could live comfortably for the rest of your life, another 20 to 30 years on your retirement fund. And within 6 months to a year of the collapse of the Weimar Republic, they were sending you a notice that your account had too little funds to sustain opening the account, and it cost them more to put a stamp on your letter and send it to you than it would to maintain your account. That 6 months to 12 months prior to that, if the economy would have stayed where it was, would have been your retirement for the next 20 to 30 years.
Well, Weimar had some of the best transgender research facilities of their time, though. So it's, the good. Got to take the good and the bad.
I forgot about that. What else do you say? Massive inflation will ultimately lead to what the bankers and the government really want: the establishment of a digital dollar system. Let's talk about the digital dollar system, because you're involved in crypto. I'm going to go use the facilities.
The little boy's room.
Do you need a coffee or water?
I do.
grab me a water, please?
A coffee
You
refill.
want a coffee and you want a water?
Water,
All right. I
yes.
want you to pontificate while I go relieve myself, and I will listen to your pontification, and I will come back and enjoy
Sounds
banter.
good.
You
Sounds
said
good.
water?
Water, please.
Water and
H2O.
another coffee. What'd
Yeah,
you get?
please.
You using the Tim Hortons?
The Tim Hortons to go
We're
with the
gonna
donuts,
eat
yeah.
that. Look, get the donuts out there.
Oh, you want to get the donuts in the pit?
Yeah, I'm gonna have one when I come back.
All right.
All right. Go.
Yeah, so the digital dollar, that's definitely something that they're working on, with the Trump era crypto reforms. It mainstreamed cryptocurrency, before the Biden regime was at war with over crypto. They were going after crypto entrepreneurs, treating them like they were drug dealers or illegal weapons smugglers, and debanking them and doing everything that they could to stifle the crypto industry, which obviously wasn't good. But then the Trump administration comes in, hires a lot of different people who are pro-crypto, starts many different crypto-related ventures himself. I won't get into the specifics of those. They're not looking too good, but you can
Regular, please.
you can look that up on your own and see the specifics of World Liberty Financial and some other Trump-related crypto businesses. But Trump was able to get different pro-crypto legislation approved and signed it, which hypothetically is a good thing, but also Now you have the Wall Street and the banking system kind of morphing into cryptocurrencies. They're kind of all becoming one and the same. They're trying to usurp crypto. You see these things called stable coins now that are emerging. You can pay in stable coins, and now there's some sort of scheme where crypto is tied into the dollar, and you're getting the dollarization of crypto. And you had the CBDCs, you had the central bank digital currencies that were unveiled several years ago, and those immediately got smoked out. People were like, "This is the mark of the beast. This is the worst idea ever." They're wholeheartedly rejected. So that kind of goes away, and then all of a sudden you hear about this thing called stablecoin, and it's getting rammed through, and it's going to make our economy so much more efficient, and it's going to peg the dollar to crypto somehow. And the worry is that these stable coins are just the first step toward the eventuality of the CBDC. You see the crypto, what was that?
Explain the difference between centralized, tied to the dollar like you're talking about, and decentralized, which is Bitcoin, and the other ones where it's decentralized and nobody has overall control. Explain that dynamic to the people as you're talking about tying it to the dollar.
Yes.
And propping it up.
So you've got, the crypto industry is now, becoming one with Wall Street and one with the corrupt banking system. You got stable coins, which are a backdoor to CBDCs. But then you also, on the other hand, you have Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not as easily able to be co-opted by the banking system as other cryptocurrencies because there is no centralized force behind Bitcoin. It's all decentralized computer code. They have not been able to hack Bitcoin. They've not been able to counterfeit it. They've not been able to get into the different code and be able to crack it with quantum computers. They're trying, but they haven't been able to yet, and it doesn't appear they'll be able to anytime soon. And there's a lot of different developers working on the code to constantly improve it. Can get into the specifics. We'll have some experts on to explain the specifics in the not too distant future on this show. We had Luke Broyles on before to explain it to some extent. We'll have others on to continue that discussion. But Bitcoin is the antithesis of centralization. That this is money that cannot, it was the people who invented it and created the decentralized code that makes up Bitcoin. They modeled it after gold. That's why the creation of Bitcoin is called mining. And of all these other crypto instruments like XRP or Ethereum or whatever the other flavor of the month is, all of these can be immediately, they can change the rules of the game and they can counterfeit these. A small cabal of people can counterfeit them. There is no small cabal of people who can counterfeit Bitcoin. It's baked right into the computer code that it can't be counterfeited. And that is why, Bitcoin is, if you're going to get involved in crypto, don't be buying any of these stable coins. Don't be buying XRP. Don't be buying Ethereum, in my opinion. Just stick with Bitcoin.
It's not financial advice, people.
I'm not a financial advisor by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just one man who hates the government and hates the banking system. And I recommend Bitcoin, gold, silver, Bitcoin, bullets, ammo, cigarettes, whatever you can get your hands on of those things. Food, yeah. Beans, dried food, those sort of things. I recommend you buy them. But I think
I got my garden going this year. First time in 12 years.
One final little pitch for Bitcoin is when you invest in Bitcoin, you're investing in a better world. You're investing in a better future. You can you can buy all those things I said, the gold, the ammo, the cigarettes, the beans, as a way to try to protect yourself from a horrendous future that is to come, which may be coming. But in Bitcoin, you're investing in a better world, a better infrastructure, digital money that can't be counterfeited, the building blocks of a future where our freedoms will be protected and we won't be living in a Orwellian hell. So I'd say
100%.
Stay optimistic and invest in Bitcoin, invest in a better technological future, because there's a lot that can be done with Bitcoin. A lot of the whole blockchain you can basically build anything on the blockchain that can not be destroyed by a centralized entity. One example is there's a decentralized network. I'm forgetting the name right now of it. Nostr, where it's a decentralized social media network that operates off the Bitcoin blockchain, where no censorship of any sort of speech can be done by any sort of centralized entity. So it's like Twitter without the moderators, without the content curators, and without Elon Musk. And although Elon Musk obviously has done a good job in many respects with X, there's no like with Bitcoin, there's no centralized cabal of people.
Correct.
They've created a kind of a structure, a protocol
that
allows for freedom of speech and a platform to post content that cannot be censored. So there's all these different things that are developing on the blockchain of Bitcoin, in addition to Bitcoin, that creates an infrastructure for a freer world, a freer society where government cannot destroy our rights.
That's a huge dynamic talking about that, because the freedom aspect is the number one predication is I have this debate every once in a while with people, and they say, well, America was founded. Yeah, let's go to that, because I was going to go to the overhead. There it is.
Is that
That's
a bear
what
claw?
Dennis brought. Is that what
it
you
is.
got, Dennis?
I got
Is
an
that
apple
a bear
fritter.
claw?
Yeah, apple fritters. Yeah.
Oh, apple fritters.
Apple fritters.
Is that
Apple
what they
fritters.
are?
We got Boston cream donuts. We got.
These are apple fritters?
That's an apple fritter right there, sir.
Oh,
It's got to be good for you. Apples are healthy, right? So.
apples. Yeah.
Cheers. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. Thank you, Dennis. Straight from
welcome.
Tim Hortons.
Yep.
Not straight from Canada, but straight from Tim Hortons. Canadian though. They got the flag on there.
Don
Dennis
Cherry,
always loves to bring
desserts.
dessert for the podcast.
Don Cherry approved. Canadian. Eh?
Eh? My family's from the UP, so we got the UP.
Oh, yeah,
thing
that's
up there.
right.
Yeah,
Sure,
just,
yeah.
You know, That's
Copper
the way-
country.
Hell yeah! You saw my coppers down there.
Yep.
They're all my my little collectibles. They only have the intrinsic value of the copper itself, but I like getting the little stamped 1 ounce coins.
People that follow this a lot, and the supply chain issues and everything else. I mean, they're quite interested in copper now too. They're talking about all these different things, all the hard assets.
Right.
But there's always, again, it's not financial advice, and you always got to think what could go wrong with any particular outlook or forecast. To say, well, right now it's the easy thing to predict because we're seeing it right in front of us, and we've seen all this monetary expansion.
Right.
Could something happen that could cause? Oh my gosh! It turns out having U.S. cash is a good thing now. That could happen too, at least intermediate term. I mean, you just never know. But some people, again, and this wouldn't be financial advice, but there are some people who say what we really should have, what you need to think about is having diversification of risk, because you don't know what's going to happen next.
Well, are you guys following the silver markets?
Yeah.
And how, silver is even more volatile than
Oh, definitely.
gold
Yeah.
or any other market, because silver is used in so many industrial, not just computers, but industrial industries. Silver is used huge in those industries, and it's being the problem is I'm concerned with silver, because where's silver at right now, Dennis?
About $75.50 an ounce.
Okay.
Roughly.
Yeah. So my silver 22 ounce or 1922 silver, even if
Yoink.
even if it didn't have any face value, because it's pretty worn. I use it as a what do you call that? My uncles used to call them the worry stones, where you would have a stone and you'd worry it, but just I use my copper and my silver. That's one of my fidgets. I know Dennis has a rubber band or two that he likes to play with, but that's my fidgets, is my copper and my silver, because they have electron properties to pull that. So I carry these two coins, but they're also my fidgets. But just this silver alone, just an ounce of that silver, 75 and a half, 75 worth, let alone its intrinsic value being a 1922 Liberty.
So that'd be numismatic
Yeah.
value, and then there's the melt value, which is the silver.
Yeah.
And again, this exchange, the exchange rate here can change, and we're not sure exactly
Right.
what the next thing will be, but there are certainly, as Rick Rule says, and again, he's been around. I identify with him at least a little bit. Like him, I'm a balding libertarian, but he's got a lot more money than I do. But as he points out, he thinks the likelihood is that the dollar will lose about 3/4 of its purchasing power over the next decade. So then,
Which it doesn't have to lose. We're already at 98.
But this might continue.
3% or
Thank you.
something like that loss.
he thinks this is likely to continue, and then but that's over 10 years, and then so people have to, when they talk to their financial advisors,
Yeah.
figure out what that means that they should do, and we're not going to tell them what to do. But Rick Rule's an interesting fellow, and he's got a lot of experience in that sort of
Diversify.
thing. So diversify your risks too, which is a good point, and be very wary of the people in political power, because
Diversify, plant a garden,
the,
grow some get some chickens.
that's what Jeremiah Babe says down in Alabama. Yeah, and they got chickens over here. I took a picture. Oh shoot, I guess we can't get it on there, but
Send it. Can you send it to?
to Shane. Yeah,
And Shane will Facebook it to me.
yeah, okay, all right. Let me.
I don't know how to. If he sends me the text, I don't know how to Facebook it to myself so that I have the image.
You just send it to yourself. Go to on Facebook.
Can you do that?
Yeah, send to Jeremy Scott Gibbs.
I don't know if I can.
You didn't know that?
Dude. I'm so computer illiterate.
Boomer.
Look at this shit. I barely can control this environment here.
Oh,
Boomer alert.
So
Boomer
Dennis was
alert.
driving in tonight, and he likes to take. He took a look at my chickens, and
got a picture there. Got some
he
pictures
got
and a
excited.
little video too.
There's 6 more in the house.
Wow.
My mother-in-law decided she's going to raise 6 more, and that's a little chess match because that's fine.
Well, famous football coach that recently won a national championship for the University of Michigan and now the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers advocates raising chickens. He had chickens, and so he said the chickens are great.
Get 2 to 4 chickens. I don't care how small your area is, as long as you're not living in an apartment. Get 2. If you got a 1/4 acre, get a little thing. They sell them. If you're not ingenious like me, can't build it. Spend the money, buy a little hen house, get a couple chickens, 2 to 4. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Have them in your backyard. You're gonna have eggs, and you'll have a little fertilizer for your garden. But you're reconnecting. You're out there. You're experiencing life. You good, Dennis, over there?
Yeah, I am. I just noticed that somebody named Openly. I posted the link to our show on Twitter X, and Openly Classist is watching or liked it, and I'm wondering if he's here in the.
Oh, you're checking out
Watching
the X feed.
Yeah, on the X feed.
Yeah.
So I wonder if Openly Classist is one of the.
That's
people
one of the things that we need to do when we start actually making money on the show is having somebody to monitor all the chats, because we should be live on Facebook, X, YouTube, and of course Rumble.
Now, could we get some Gypsy Magic T-shirts
Hell
that we could sell? Yeah, because he's always here. Look at
He's blowing up the chat.
he is, and he's the king of the emojis.
It was like you today with blowing up the text thread.
Yeah, I can get you all that great information there. So,
Dude, it was phenomenal.
okay, so
I sent you the chicken foot.
Will you send me the chicken?
Yes.
Let me get it.
so we can do that. And speaking of the chickens,
Did you do it Facebook or did you do it
Facebook.
Facebook? Book in your face. You
So-
want the Facebook?
so another great grower of chickens is our hero Tom Massey, and what he did on his place down in Kentucky,
Yeah.
he built this like movable, what would you call it, chicken coop kind of a thing.
I had those in my last house.
So the chickens are inside because there's varmints all around. He doesn't want the varmints eating the chickens.
They call them a chicken tractor.
Yeah, okay, so he's got it. They're inside. It just moves very slowly, but they're protected.
Yeah.
Then they can eat the grass or the seed or whatever you got them eating, and it moves along, and they get some exercise. And
Yeah.
it's a brilliant thing. So we should talk more about Tom Massey in his race against special ed down there in Kentucky.
Okay. I'm trying to find Shane's. It's not coming through, Shane.
What's your Wi-Fi
Oh, there it is.
password?
It finally
You got
came
it?
through.
Okay, got it. Okay, good.
Just Facebook. They're trying to block it.
Yeah.
Look at Dennis. You took a bunch of pictures
And a video.
and a
Yeah,
video.
Yeah, yeah.
There's my chickens right My mother-in-law, wrong way.
That's Scott McMahon, the douchebag.
Douchebag.
Yeah, geez, yeah.
Chickens.
Video.
And
There's a
video of
video.
the chickens.
Yeah.
Video of my chickens.
There you go, Livingston County, Michigan chickens. How about that?
Were they inside? They're still inside the fence.
Yeah, yeah.
They get let out in the afternoon.
Free rangers.
So they got their area, but then at a certain point, they gotta come back in because they'll go crazy. They'll just wander around the yard eating shit. Amazing. Yeah, you gotta have chickens. All right, what's Thomas Massey talking about down there, his district?
Well, all
About
sorts of
chickens?
things. Yeah, so what? He goes down there, and Trump falsely accuses him of being lazy. He's the last guy you could call being lazy. And so when he's on break, he goes down there.
Yeah.
On this home that he built, and he's got all or reconditioned or whatever. It's a beautiful place, and he's off the grid because he's got his Tesla battery that runs the whole operation. But he has the movable chicken coop to protect the chickens from the varmints.
I had 2 chicken tractors at my last house.
Oh boy.
And so we would free range the chickens. We would let them out in the morning and let them free range till dusk, and they'd come back in. And the way we did it was we let them free range, but they had their chicken tractor. And then every few weeks, I would hook onto it and I would move it to another part of the yard so that the grass in the little run that was underneath the coop. So I would do my runs were 12 foot by 4 foot.
Oh boy.
So I could back my tractor up to it, hook on it, and I had 2 big wheels in the back. They would pop up and it would lift the whole back end. And I had the coop in there, had the everything, and I would just unplug the extension cord and I'd pull it to a different part in the yard. And then pop the wheels down, unhook it, and the chickens had another full amount of grass underneath them in the run itself. And then when we would get up, we would open the door and then they could free range. I never failed. So out of 14 chickens at that time, we had probably either a dozen, if not 9 eggs every single day.
Wow.
Nice.
And eggs are good for you, right? Good protein.
Oh, they're phenomenal. If you had your own home raised, I don't want to say farm raised, you don't have to have a farm, you can have a little spot. But if your chickens get to run around your yard and eat the bugs and eat some worms and they love the dandelion leaves. The egg yolks, the yolk is orange. It's not yellow. It's orange. It's rich. And what we would call the whites, which is actually clear when you first crack it, is actually more opaque. It's a little bit cloudier in a free range because it's thicker. It's got this thickness to it. And I'll tell you what, when you start eating eggs from your own chickens that are running around your yard, you go, oh my God, these are phenomenal. I feel bad for Kristen, Megan, Kelly because she won't do the ovulation. Our chickens when our chickens when they lay an egg, you'll hear them. They as soon as they lay that egg, they come out of the little hen box, and they're noisy they're just crazy noisy. They're like, oh, I laid an egg, come check it out. I laid an egg, come check it out. They just run around. They're happy.
Strutting around
with that. And dude, our chickens are phenomenal. If you have an opportunity, go to Tractor Supply, go to Home and Farm, go to Rural King, go somewhere. Just get a couple chickens. They're easy to maintain. You keep
You just got to keep those bastard foxes away from them.
Well, there's that. But I mean, if you're in a city area, check your ordinances and stuff like that, and then apologize when you violate it. Tell them, oh, you're
Or just break the ordinances because fucking ordinance.
Exactly right. That's what's on your mind.
Ordinances are tyranny.
Oh yeah, yeah. So anyway, yeah, we live on a small lake. We got all sorts of waterfowl out there. We got the geese, the ducks,
Okay.
the swans, and then we have these cranes that come. We have the blue. They're really gray, and then the white ibises. But just today, I saw one out there. This blue crane who's actually gray.
Yeah.
Got himself a fish for his Sunday dinner.
Oh, you were trying to videotape. As soon as you shut your camera off, he actually hit it.
Yeah, but I see that one video. I got the one where then he had it up on the neighbor's grass, and the fish was. But eventually, he was able to eat it. It took him like three tries to consume the fish, but he eventually did.
Ted Nugent says that those blue herrings or the The mud cranes
Yeah.
are phenomenal eating.
Oh.
He says down in Texas they allow you to hunt them, and he calls them the ribeye of the sky.
The
What
ribeye
I
of the sky.
But we're not allowed to hunt them here.
Oh.
Tyranny.
The tyranny. We're not allowed to. Yeah. Unless you're Native American, then you can shoot whatever you want and call it good.
Or gillnet fish, right?
Yeah. So the latest shooting, let's wrap up with this, guys. The latest shooting, false flag, black flag, or simple security,
Lapse.
yeah, security lapse, security incompetence. Well, I mean, I am of the default idea of never chalk up to malfeasance, which you can easily ascribe to ignorance or incompetence. But here you are at a hotel. Now, I did hear that Trump was a late addition to the White House Correspondence Dinner. So,
But like everyone, I mean, everyone was there.
yeah.
Like everyone, their mother was there. and
Yeah,
like,
so what are we doing?
There's no security. I mean, I guess
Well,
there
it was one
some.
layer. It was one layer, and the guy tried to shoot through the one layer. And I don't know that. Dale's saying we have several houses by us that have chickens. Too many roosters for me. I get that. Yeah, I'm not in with the roosters, but yeah, if we can get more and more chickens around there, and if you train your roosters properly, they'll protect your flock. But that's you got to take a little bit of dedication to do that. So what do we think? Do we think it's so? To describe the terms, all right, guys. A false flag, once again, for those of you in Ann Arbor, a false flag is when you perpetrate a crime on your own population, but you pretend it was somebody else. 9/11. Black flag is when you know something legitimate's going to happen and you have all the intel, but you fail to prevent it because it's advantageous, as Rahm Emanuel would like to say. You never want to let a good crisis go to waste, so you allow a black flag to happen, a la Pearl Harbor. They knew Pearl Harbor was going to happen. We knew we'd cut off their oil supply. We knew that the Japanese were going to do some type of military strike because they needed to regain access to oil fields in the Philippines, and the Americas control the Philippines, and therefore if they could attack Pearl Harbor or some other strategic area, that would the Americans would rally back to their own territories, which would have been specifically Hawaii, but more importantly the continental United States, and we would have abandoned overall security on the Philippines and allow the Philippines to fall, which happened, not directly from that, but you can watch the film footage of General MacArthur leaving the Philippines and saying to the people as he left, "I shall return," because the Philippines was a huge place of oil for the nation of Japan that did not have their own oil resources and relied on Indonesia, that whole Indonesian area, for their oil. So that was a black flag that we knew they were going to attack because we had put a stranglehold on their natural resources and what they needed to fight their war from their side. So a false flag, you put up the flag of your enemy, even though it's you doing it. A black flag, your enemy is going to come in, but you know he's going to do it, and you allow it to happen because it's advantageous.
Hamas on October 7th, perhaps.
Are we standing down for 7.5 hours while hang
gliders, the go-karts guys coming in?
1980s Datsun trucks are flying through there against the most sophisticated army in the world? Yeah. Or incompetence, which is very rarely the actual thing, given what we have here. But we'll
and
allow.
I think the government likes to use incompetence as kind of a cloak to do malevolent things. In this case, the big scuttlebutt. Immediately afterwards, like there was the image of 30 different influencers immediately saying, "Well, we need that bus. Why we need the ballroom? We need this White House ballroom."
Yeah, and
that's the talking point. Trump goes on for 20 minutes about the ballroom in the post, assassination press conference.
Right.
So it just seemed a little bit off. And then you go in and you look at how people reacted. to the threat. Something just felt off about it.
When you hear the talking points immediately start to come out, you gotta question. I think I'm of the mindset and have been for most of my adult life. You question everything, but when you hear the mantra coming across, no matter where it's from, it could be from a whole bunch of modern investigatorial media. I still am questioning. I don't take everything that Alex Jones says at face value and just buy it hook, line, and sinker. I'm constantly checking stuff out. George Scandia, our good friend of the show, he sends me...
Albania, not to be confused with Armenia.
Correct. But George, he sends me stuff all the times. And again, like Dennis was blowing us up in our chat today, I don't always get to it, but... he's sending me stuff to keep me informed. And a lot of times it could be a video of somebody boots on the ground in a certain area that's explaining it. So it's we talked about this on Tuesday, and I brought up the scripture verse that knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. And the man who thinks he knows something does not yet know as he ought to know, but it's enough that he knows that he loves God and is known by God.
Is that the time you were taking shrooms Tuesday?
I probably was. I'd never taken shrooms, but gummy.
Well,
maybe
now that you're on the
marijuana.
Grand New Party board, that's
I'm
our
gonna have to take
that's our
shrooms.
initiation
Take shrooms.
right. So you're gonna be taking
Are we
them
going?
soon.
Are we going up to the North Pole? Because I want the reindeer.
We're gonna be doing them here in this place, watching
Yeah, as long as we
trippy ass movies on that
As long as
big
I
screen.
Or having mushroom soup.
Yeah. Well, wait. Are we doing?
You can have cream of mushroom soup while we take the magical stuff.
Are we
Okay,
doing?
all
Are we going to put on Dark
be-
Side of the Moon with
Best movie to watch.
Dark Side of the Moon with Wizard of Oz?
Wizard of Oz. That's always a good one. But
Yeah.
the best movie to watch,
Yeah.
Willy Wonka.
On shrooms, like the original Gene Wilder.
Yes,
Hell yeah.
it's terrific.
Wait. I've got a button for that. I got a button.
You
Where's it?
lose?
Yeah. Where's it at? Most frequent. There it is.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Why did that? Because he ate fizzy bubbly, and they floated to the
Etc.
ceiling.
Etc.
They floated to the ceiling,
Line.
and they touched the ceiling, and then the ceiling was defiled, and it has to be repainted now.
Yes.
And you came back. You stole fizzy bubbly,
Yes.
and now he's like, but no, you lose. You get nothing,
as it says here in the contract.
etc.
Etc. Etc.
Expos factos. Dude, that's so awesome.
It's
So what
classic.
do you just watch it straight on shrooms?
Just it's good.
Just straight, no soundtrack or anything like that?
It's good because it puts you in a good mood too.
Okay.
You can't have a bad trip while
Are these
watching
like straight
Willy Wonka.
psilocybins?
Hell yeah, you can get nowadays.
Dennis is doing cream
Now-
mushroom soup while we're doing this.
Nowadays, you can buy them over the counter in Ann Arbor.
Really?
Over the counter shroom
Okay.
shops in good old Ann Arbor, Dennis's playground.
Hell yeah. He loved that Ann Arbor quote.
Yeah, that was great.
Rush used to say Rio Linda. We got to say Ann Arbor here in Michigan. I will say this, Dennis. The apple fritter totally fucked up my taste buds. This tastes like a watered down bland coffee right now. My Di Serono, which is usually it's highly
It's never gonna taste the same again.
I'm like-
it's ruined. It's ruined to you for Di Serono.
that apple fritter changed my taste buds so much that this tastes like drinking a watered down iced coffee right now.
So you're going to have to spend more time at Tim Hortons having more of those apple fritters.
That's the cure to your alcoholism. Is
that what
Tim
it is?
Hortons.
The apple fritter.
yeah, but what
Apple
does it
fritters
taste
and
like with
coffee.
tequila?
Well, you got to learn all the.
I'm gonna have to learn all the flavors again. So yeah, we're talking about the difference between a false flag, black flag, or incompetence. What are we thinking about this latest thing? Because the talking points you already pointed out that came out of it, the ballroom and the other things. But the other thing that's on the table, and I want to address this as we're getting close to the end here, is the FISA. You have Trump coming out. I don't know if Dennis, you sent it to me, or if Shane, you sent it to me. But Trump coming out and saying literally the opposite of what Ben Franklin said. He's like, I'm willing to trade a little bit of my liberty for security to make sure the military has their information. I'm like,
He's like, I know they violated my rights, and I know all these horrible abuses happened to me, but I'm willing to let it happen for the good of my country. We're at war.
He said, if this goes through, you people will be less safe, less free, and have less privacy. But that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I think that's what he was saying.
wow.
Shocking.
And I'm looking at this going, okay, wait a minute. You were the absolute opposite of this.
James Otis Jr.
Throughout 3 campaigns.
Yep.
James Otis Jr., 1761. So 15 years before 1776. We're talking about the 250th anniversary.
Yeah.
So this is a 265th anniversary
Right.
of James Otis Jr. Otis, my man Otis.
Right. You're reading Dale's thing.
Yeah, but the fritters at the
Try
other
the
place.
fritters at the Looney Bakery in Highlands, life changing.
Okay.
Does it change your taste buds? Because I didn't expect to eat the apple fritter and not enjoy my Di Serono afterwards, and right
Well-
now my Di Serono tastes like water.
We'll have to do a
Don't
road
you have
trip.
water there? Can't you reset your palate?
God bless me.
Yeah. So anyway, James Otis Jr., who was, I think, one of the people utilizing the self-written search warrants of the British Empire, then said this is bad, and so he went to court to fight him. They lost the trial, but he gave a speech that inspired people. And many of the great scholars who followed the American Revolutionary Patriot say this was really the beginning of the American Revolutionary
Amazing.
situation. And Jefferson and Madison both thought the revolution wasn't the fighting. It was the change in the attitudes and the minds of the American people.
Yes.
Before they had to defend their independence and defend their rights, which are granted by God, which are not granted by government, but they had to defend those from the British, even though, as Mel Gibson's character, Benjamin Martin, loosely based apparently on the actual Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what does it
the
matter?
Patriot?
If I trade
Yeah. If I trade
one tyrant 3,000 miles away for 3,000 tyrants a mile away,
Yes.
what's the
Yeah.
So there's much to be gleaned from that. But anyway, so this is really an important issue, and as the 10th Amendment Center says, the people that take the attitude that Donald Trump is taking, and Donald Trump himself, these people are redcoats.
Yeah.
And they need to be deported back to England, back to redcoat land, and leave the real Americans, the Americans that want freedom, alone.
I want to ask you this question, and then Shane, if there's anything else in the you had a ton of show notes. We've got to
I think we've
3.
I think we've done. We're good.
We're good, but I want to ask this question, and then we'll close, get final thoughts. But do you think we make it? Do you think we?
No.
And if you do, okay. So no, Dennis. Do you think we make it?
Make what?
We-
Make
yeah,
a
yeah, who's the
country.
we?
Do you think
The
that
ship
does that
has
mean?
sailed. The Titanic is in the air. We're rearranging some deck chairs on it.
Okay.
You're heading to the midterms, and that shit. We hit the iceberg many moons
Near
ago.
my God,
We're at 250 years from the Declaration of Independence. Do you think we survive 30 years, 20 years?
we are nearer to thee, my God. Well, I think what
In name only, we might.
well, yes. So a couple of things. Will the United States government, in its current form and over its current territorial sovereignty, if you will, or whatever you
Right.
say, control, will that continue? I don't know. I think that's likely to change.
Do you think secession movements are about to hit full force and
Hopefully.
hit the ground running?
Yeah, eventually, and there could be secession within states. We were talking about that too, like in California, right? Maybe they were going to maybe break up.
They were trying to drive.
I think
and
it'd be
divide
more likely
into
to see
5
like a-
different states at one point.
A balkanization type effect more
Correct.
than like
Yeah.
a straight up state by state secession. I think the states are kind of muddied now.
Right.
People don't have pride in their state like they used to.
Well, look
It's
at us.
gonna be
We're-
it's going to be a balkanization type effect where you got neighbor versus neighbor
We've got
going
a-
at it based on their
Livingston County
ideology
is a
and
huge-
racial cultural differences.
Right, Livingston County is a huge conservative base, but we've got Howells right here is pretty much blue. You know, Brighton's got some blue stuff going on. You know, which is when you get centers of power, you're going to have that
Always.
leftist influence. But I'm just curious about that. You know, do you think, because here's my point on this, and Dennis, I think you'll appreciate this historically, is that it was never supposed to be a centralized government in the first place. So to have the country potentially devolve back into nation states that may have a united coalition of sovereignty and trade, which is what our Constitution was all about. And then that's why the 9th and 10th Amendment are so phenomenal. You know, these powers not reserved to the people directly or to the states. How am I saying it right?
Or whatever was not expressly delegated to the feds or prohibited by this document to the states, and the people belong to the states and the people. I mean, that's essentially.
Yeah. Look at, I kept it open. Powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited to it by the states are reserved for the states respectively or to the people. And of course the 9th Amendment, the enumeration of this Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage other rights retained by the people. Not even retained by the state. They didn't even put the state in the 9th Amendment.
Right.
They just said to the people. And then when it gets muddy.
They wanted to make it clear that the people had the rights.
They're the sovereigns. We're the sovereignty, not the sovereign citizen thing that's emerged, but the idea of we're the sovereigns, we're the potentates, we're supposed to be the kings of our own thing. That's why I loved a guest a while ago, Rick Jones was on, and he talked about he was at the forefront of helping institute the current definition of the castle doctrine here in Michigan. Phenomenal, but it comes back to why is it called the castle doctrine? I'm in my house, but my house is my castle. I'm the king of my castle, and we get coming back to this sovereignty. And I think about these dynamics of nations have a 200-year lifespan. We're coming up on 250 years of the Declaration of Independence. Now, granted, we didn't have our Constitution until 22 years later? It was 1798.
It was earlier than that. It was.
Well, we had the Articles of Confederation, but I'm
Right.
saying the Declaration of Independence, 1776.
Right.
But when did the Constitution? Because then Larry likes to read the Bill of Rights. Where's my Bill of Rights? Up there on the wall.
Because 1798, they had already been around for a few years, like the Constitution.
Okay, so 1797.
No, before that. We should know this.
Look this
obviously.
up. Yeah, we got to know. It's a date. But the dynamics I'm looking at is how long does a nation state last before it's overturned? And we don't think about this because we typically live in a geopolitical bubble on our own. But we're dealing with Russia. Well, Russia's only been around since the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union. Before that, it was the Soviet Union from 1917 onward. We don't think about these dynamics of how long the governmental entities last and then are overturned because we think of the provincial ethnicity existing in that land as somehow perpetuating the government. But the governments are overturned. I mean, just looking at during the times of Napoleon and everything like that over there in France, their government rose and fell multiple times over a very small amount of decades. Sometimes within a decade, it rose.
Viva
and fell
Revolution.
Revolution.
But Russia, Russia before the Soviet Union, Russia was around for centuries.
It was, but in the totality of its territorial dynamics, it ebbed and flowed. Ebbed and flowed.
Borders change. People don't understand. Oh my God, the border. Well, the borders change.
Mm-hmm.
And like the thing with Ukraine, why are so many Republicans and Democrats? They should form a Khrushchev caucus, because it was Khrushchev, for instance, that put Crimea in the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic.
Right.
Because was Ukrainian.
Right.
And I think it was Lenin that put the Donbass regions into Ukraine. That's all Soviet stuff. Are these people?
Half of Ukraine speaks
Russian
language, and they voted before America put Zelensky in office. The Ukrainian people voted to secede from Ukraine and join Russia, and Russia decided not to receive them. So they defaulted back to it, but they had their own moratorium. It would be like the people in Washington State voting to secede, the several counties on that side of the mountains to secede and join Idaho.
So,
right? And then Idaho going, we don't want you.
So
Okay, do we form our own state? Do we do our own thing? This is the dynamics that are going on.
the consent of the governed.
100%.
So the balkanization thing, I read this a while back, but I thought it was kind of interesting. 'Cause I thought balkanization meant splitting up and things like that. But this guy really watched. He said no, balkanization meant forcing all the stuff together, and debalkanization was the other thing. But so you might see, who knows what's going to happen here? Because I mean, my understanding of it is that the American Revolutionary generation and then the people that were involved with the Articles of Confederation, the first Constitution,
Yes.
and then the next Constitution, it didn't anticipate it would last this long. And within this 2.5 centuries, we've had a revolution within the form, right? I mean, we've kept a lot of the outward trappings,
Right.
but the government has become
But
the
the
opposite.
Civil War changed it huge.
Well, that was one, yeah. But other.
But then there's other. I mean, with the
a lot of times it's slowly, right? You don't really notice
correct,
it so
right,
much.
Right. With the final institution of the central banks,
yeah, that was-
which
yeah,
is huge. That changed the dynamics.
The income tax,
right.
FDR
Simultaneously
loading
there.
up the courts.
yep.
And then Nixon finally taking us off the gold standard
Finally taking
and
us off the gold
embracing China to have a bunch of our reserve currency, and then we buy from them so that they prop up our dollar.
And
The
the
civil rights
Act.
legacy.
yeah, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
Misnames of words, and then the people in Congress just abdicating their responsibility, and the president's usurping it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the government of the United States today performs more usurpations of power, more violations than did King George III. And
By far.
By
right.
far, yeah. If we had to put up with the same amount of, if our founding fathers looked at what we're dealing with today, they would have revolted overnight, instantaneously against this. Because again, I'm watching these stupid Dodge commercials while I'm watching sporting events, and they're like, 250 years ago, our founding fathers didn't like the tax on tea, so they dumped it into the bay. Well, we don't like tax on your vehicle, so we're gonna sell you a truck for $90,000, and we're gonna pay your taxes. And they go, thank you. But that's the advertising right now. Is people don't have the tangibility. When you come across in a boat, raise a family, and a few generations later, you've got a whole farm area. I don't want to call it a plantation because it has connotations, but you've got a whole plantation, and it's a legacy that your family has built, and you found it on land that was unoccupied, or you fought a little bit and you occupied it, and you forged your. When somebody comes over and says, "Hey, I'm going to charge you a tax on this," you go, "Go fuck yourself. Get off my land." Then they come back with a whole bunch of people in uniform, and they go, "No, we're going to charge you a tax on this." And you go, "You know what? I got cannons and I got kids that I can dress up in uniforms too." And you have this. This is
I got a moat.
Exactly. Well, and this is the dynamics that we're dealing with. Now you fast forward 250 years, and you've got people that never have experienced the fundamental sovereign freedom that our founding fathers had, and you've got some dumbass that walks in from the FDA telling the Amish farmers who did operate this, "Oh, you can't sell your raw milk to your people even though they are free will to buy it from you. You can't sell your produce unless it has a stamp and we got to come in and inspect it." But more importantly, the vast majority of the people, they go, "We're dealing with trying to close out the permit for the bathrooms on here." And I'm like, sometimes I just go, "Why the fuck do I need your permission in the first place?"
Might not be up to code.
That's exactly what it is. "Oh, we didn't get this piece of paper, so we can't close this out." Wait, you didn't get a piece of paper for my septic system that you made us spend $33,000 on an engineered field. But you didn't get a piece of paper, so you didn't close out that permit, and that permit affects the bathroom permit, and now you won't let it close out. And I go, so we're scratching our heads going, who gave you little people the authority to do this? Our founding fathers revolted over a stamp tax and a tea tax because they came and forged their own way of life. They didn't They didn't have a strict animosity towards the government, but they were doing their own thing. If they had a huge animosity, they wouldn't have sent forth an olive branch in 1775 just before they did the Declaration of Independence. They wanted to maintain relationship. But at a certain point, they said, hey, listen, I'm the one digging the holes and raising the farm and growing my crops and growing my fields or doing my printing press or running my tavern or doing this. Who the fuck are you to walk in here and dictate to me anything? You should come over and say thank you, and can I pay you for a cup of mead, while I'm sitting here? Instead, we have to have, who even thinks about no soldier shall be quartered except in time of war and by the consent of the ownership. Nobody thinks about that, but our founding fathers were dealing with that because they had soldiers walking into their sovereign land that they had potentially cultivated for the last 100 years or more, century, of their families being on those lands, fighting off everything. The Native Americans, can't call them Indians anymore, fighting off disease and plague, fighting the winter and summer and all that stuff, and forging a land. They did that. And then somebody walks in and tries to take from them, and they said, hell no. Now, nobody pays attention that you're having money siphoned off out of your paycheck. Nobody pays attention that when you pay your mortgage, it's already, your taxes are already included in there. Oh, and then your insurance. And then the insurance company denies your claim. These are all things that have been, as you said, Dennis, it's gradually and slowly put in there.
Because if it happened in one day, people would have been shooting over it.
Even people today say tax day, April 15th, which we just passed, and they have no concept that I just worked until today, April 15th. Back there, I know we're on the 26th today, but they worked up till that day strictly for the government. All of their money up to that point. Because they still got a paycheck during that time, so don't think about it. But if you didn't get any money from January 1st until April 15th and had to give it all over the government, there would be a revolt instantaneously, overnight, of people saying, fuck you, I'm not doing this. Dennis, what do you got to say?
I just read something, I think it's one of the things I sent you, where they say the actual tax freedom day now is June 5th, if you figure it out.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so it's almost the middle of the year. So anyway, figure it all in. But the other thing is, it's kind of interesting when you look at the history of all this stuff, and we're like, even with the Tea Party,
yeah,
they had actually, apparently the British had lowered the tax on tea. Well, so what was the problem? Well, the John Hancock and others were smuggling Dutch tea in.
They were foreign tea smugglers.
Yes, so they wanted. So we said, you're not going to do
You're not going to undercut us with your bullshit.
Right. But it was a fight against prohibition. There was a prohibition against drinking Dutch tea.
Oh, right.
Right, or any other kind of tea. So that was part of it. So we're anti-prohibition.
Okay.
But the other part too was apparently they also were passing laws that said, we might give in on a particular point or lower tax here or there, but we maintain control over all issues whatsoever, and we are the final authority. And the American people said, no, you're not. And then there was gun control going on.
Yeah.
So there's all these other things too. And apparently the first Tea Party thing took place in Philadelphia, and it also happened in Charleston as well as in Boston. So it's really a fascinating and rich tapestry. And a lot of these principles were enunciated earlier. Mm-hmm. And one of the great enunciators, he gave his head for liberty. Oh, I just had the name in my mind, and now I forgot it again. Who's they chopped his head off, and Jefferson said he wrote the best book ever written. Algernon Sidney. The best book that Jefferson ever read about governance was Algernon Sidney.
Okay.
Who had influenced John Locke. And I think Locke was a young man.
Yep.
When Sidney was executed by the king, because the king said recant what you wrote about the duty to overthrow arbitrary government, and Algernon Sidney would not do it.
Right.
And so he literally gave his head. Lost his head, but the king did not destroy the manuscript. The manuscript hadn't been published yet, but then it got published and it got circulated. But Locke apparently, some people say, well, Locke kind of tempered himself a little bit because he saw what happened to Algernon Sidney.
Yeah, he was like, I'm not going to go full Algernon.
Yeah, that's right. Don't go full Algernon. But Algernon Sidney was one of the great heroes of liberty, and people should remember him and read about him.
Yeah.
We owe him a great debt.
Amen. All right, final thoughts. Shane, I'm going to start with you.
All right.
We're talking about anti-genocide. We didn't dive deep into that. We talked about a lot of other subjects, but the economic aspects of it are at least perpetuating the ongoing genocide throughout the world. But your thoughts on the war, genocide, the economy, all this stuff?
Yeah, genocide is bad.
It's bad, okay?
It's not. It's not good.
It's not good.
But yeah, I think we hit on a lot of very important points today. A lot of things that Republicans and conservatives fail to realize. A lot of them seem to be caught up, in that Fox News bubble. I remember just a few years ago, it seemed like everyone realized that Fox News wasn't telling us the truth when they refused to report the truth about election fraud that happened in 2020. I remember there was a big, conservative, right-wing, Republican MAGA revolt against Fox News back then, as everyone understood that they were spinning things and not pro-MAGA and not telling us the truth, but people seemingly forgot. And now they believe that you're being told the truth by the people on Fox News about the wars, about the chances that Republicans have in the midterms, and we're seeing a kind of a reversion back to the Bush era within Republicans. And
if you're not with us, you're with the Tars.
exactly, and that may have worked in 2004, but not these days. Younger generations, millennials like myself and Gen Z,
They're hip to the groove.
yeah, millennials were able to live through the lies of 9/11, learn the lessons that we were lied into these wars. There's a lot more to the official story of 9/11 than what we've been told in the 9/11 Commission report. All these, all the wars, all of our violations of our civil liberties, of our constitutional freedoms, the robbing of our economic prosperity. We're told to go to college, get into debt, you're going to move up in the world. Everything that we were told turned out to be a falsehood. So we've learned those lessons as millennials and Gen Z. They never heard any of the propaganda blitz that happened after 9/11. Vast majority of them are too young to even really remember 9/11 as it happened. So they're the post 9/11 generation, and the propaganda that was drilled into millennials and then particularly older people, it's completely lost on them. So these are the generations who are completely and utterly against the war in Iran, and these are the generations who will either vote Democrat, start voting independent, maybe third party, or just stay home rather than vote Republican in the midterms. And I'd like to hope that Republicans will learn the right lessons after November, presuming that there isn't some kind of miraculous turn of events. I'd like to think that Republicans would learn the right lessons, but I don't think so. I think they're just going to double down, blame Tucker Carlson, and blame Candace Owens, and blame people like me and Dennis for telling them the truth about what was going on as this downward spiral happens. So I don't anticipate Republicans learning much from what's going to happen in November, but I do believe that the silver lining will be there can be an independent-minded candidate who speaks the truth about foreign policy, who speaks the truth about the state of Israel and how they're drawing us into all these wars and a lot of other issues. That candidate can emerge, perhaps through the Republican Party, maybe as an independent, and get a very large share of the vote and kind of turn the tables on the establishment the same way the Ron Paul campaigns of 2008 and 2012 did. And I think that is the silver lining. That's something that we can look forward to. The public is pissed. The public does not like the uniparty anymore. They've had it. And there's going to be alternatives in the very near future for new political outcomes where we're not held hostage to the stupidity of Fox News or any other corporate media outlet or these different groups of special interests who own our system and own our politicians. People want a legitimate alternative, and I think we'll get one in 2028. But it's a shame that so much promise that we had coming in after 2024 has seemingly been squandered.
And fuck you if you don't like it.
I'm sorry. I accidentally pushed that button. I apologize. I apologize. Thank you, Shane. I didn't even want to add to it. That was great. Dennis?
Okay, yeah, well, there's a lot to say. And regarding 2020, I think we might, as somebody was just saying the other day, we might well see Trump 2028 per gallon. But anyway, we hopefully never gets to that, of course. But we have our rights granted by God, granted by the Creator. And unfortunately today, too many people have missed that, and the road to perdition has been paved with partisan politics and having this two-party system where people think it's all about the marketing label R or D and which team you're on, and you got to trust, the great leader. But putting your trust in one person is one of the most anti-American things we could do, and it's one of the most illogical things we could do. And yet this seems to be very, very prevalent right now. And the coalition that came together to attempt to save the situation after the Biden administration has now been shattered. But even more importantly than that, if we look at what's going on in this world and we look at the numbers, financially, it's very difficult to find a way that we're going to be able to vote our way out of this one way or the other. If we look at the amount of evil that's been done overseas, often in our name, unfortunately, by these savages in business suits on the banks of the Potomac, what they've done to people overseas, they've created a situation where there must be a lot of enmity towards the United States, and here we're an American, we haven't been hit so hard like they have, but we don't know what's going to be coming in the future. We do know that our rights are under constant attack, and the great men and women of the American Revolutionary generation, building upon the sacrifices made by their earlier generations, if they could see, if they're watching what's going on here, they must be very disappointed. And since liberty is granted by God, it's our duty to defend that liberty. I said, what God has joined together, every human being in their liberty, let no man tear asunder. And the appeasement of politically powerful usurpers by the average person has gone on so long now that we tend to think of it as just the natural state of things, and we can't afford to have it. It's wrong, it's sinful, and it's created tremendous damage, and they've sown the wind, and now we're going to reap the whirlwind, and it looks very difficult. So it'll be extremely important to have the right priorities, to remember that God is king, that the final victory's been won. Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior, and we should put Christ before Caesar, and hopefully that's something that all generations can see and all generations will focus on. And if we practice the golden rule, if we act as good Samaritans but also have discernment, and be strong against evildoers, but treat each other as we would like to be treated, and do those sorts of things, then I think that then yes, we can make it, society can make it, but it's very possible that the edifice, the political edifice, will not make it in the current shape that we see it, but it may lead to a rebirth of freedom. There may well be a renaissance for the remnant, and we are the remnant, and that is our I believe, our duty and our opportunity.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's certainly a difficult conundrum, or I'm not centered because I was scooted over. It's definitely a difficult dynamic. I think of the phrase, and we used it on the show. We didn't do a disclaimer tonight just because I didn't feel like it. But in the beginning of, I'm going to pull this up real quick. In the beginning of, that right there. Change. There it is. In the beginning of a change, the patriot is a scarce man and brave and hated and scorned. When his cause succeeds, the timid join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot. Mark Twain. I look at this dynamic that we're discussing tonight, talking about genocide. We're talking about wars. We're talking about how the economic fallout of that. We're talking about violation of civil liberties. We're talking about Thomas Massey, that they're trying to primary, who's voted the most consistently next to MTG with the president, has been a huge cheerleader, not because they had blind faith in President Trump, but because they saw that he was espousing, hopefully they thought that he believed it, but was definitely espousing true patriotic, America first, make America great again dynamics. And it's only when he has departed from that, you know, it's the same thing with RFK Jr. RFK Jr. and who's the girl, the gray in her black hair? She looks like Rogue from X.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Her name was escaping me. Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. were two of the biggest Democrats over the last few years that said I didn't leave the party left me. And when we're sitting here talking about this, we don't want to bash on Trump, but we didn't leave Trump left us. Are you off the Trump train? The Trump train is not the Trump train. When Trump came down there and said no new wars and getting entangled specifically in Iran was a foolish deal, and even called out and said 9/11 was not quite an inside job. He didn't say it that way, but he definitely said it was a bunch of garbage, okay? When he talked about a lot of these dynamics, and then we see him flip, and the flip is causing genocide. It's perpetuating the endless wars. It's doing all of these dynamics. We didn't leave Trump. Trump left us. We desperately would like him to come back. But as Dennis pointed out in his final thoughts, it's not about finding our salvation in a savior, a single person. We did that once, okay? His name was Jesus Christ. He was hung on the cross, paid for the sins once for all, and resurrected, okay? I don't need another Moses-type figure, but people gravitate towards that. Trump, for a season, has been our Moses figure. But when he has departed from that mandate and is no longer supporting the people who have their first allegiance to Christ and their second allegiance to the liberty that Christ provides by his sacrifice, then we are going to look at it objectively and go, is he departing from that mandate, from that fundamental position that he was espousing, and is deviating and causing more harm than good now? We would say yes. And we're disappointed. We're upset, and we're voicing it. We're not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're saying, President Trump, get back on track, do the right thing, get out of this fucking endless war over there in Iran. It's not going to be any good. You're being propped up by Zionists who may or may not even be Jewish themselves. But you're in this dynamic. It's cutting off the Strait of Hormuz. You know, oh, the strait's open, the strait's closed. The strait's open, the strait's closed. The strait's open, the strait's closed. You know, no matter what, when you're getting charged a couple $1 million for your policy to even venture in there because you could be attacked, there are ships that don't even want to venture into there. They don't even want to go in. So our own aircraft carrier had to go around the Horn of Africa and come back up because we were afraid to even come through the Red Sea to go through the Gulf of Yemen and then come up to the Gulf or the straits into the Strait of Hormuz. These are dynamics that we're dealing with in live time. We're dealing with high economic strains on us, and we're looking at this going, we had a good thing going. We don't know how long it'll last. It may devolve into balkanization. It may devolve into these dynamics. I may see in my lifetime and Shane's lifetime, maybe Dennis's lifetime. Devin, you're a silver fox. But we may see in our lifetime the dissolution or at least a major change in the structure of what we would consider to be the United States government, for better or worse. I think about these things and I wonder where we're at on it, and we go, I want to be on the forefront of sounding the alarm when it's necessary and giving out praise when it's necessary, but I don't want to walk through this with blinders on pretending that everything's okay when it's not okay. We're looking at economic problems that we would have been screaming, every conservative screaming from the rooftops if it was under Biden. And we're allowing it under Trump because, orange man good.
Trust the plan.
Trust the plan. There's a whole thing. And I go, guys, I can't turn. Again, I'm going to side with Alex Jones on that. I'm calling balls and strikes. I'm doing exponential research to make sure I get the best picture that I can find. But I'm calling balls and strikes on this. And I'm looking at these dynamics going, okay, we're not trying to bash on Trump. He promised arrest. He hit the ground running, was phenomenal. Right? J6, but we just saw Joe Biggs and Stuart Rhodes and a number of other people get their sentences fully.
Basically a full pardon.
A full pardon, right?
Yeah.
Just saw it.
Great stuff.
Good stuff, but
overshadowed by the bad stuff.
And there's a bunch of good stuff coming through right now. There's been some good stuff that's come through recently with the Trump administration. It's overshadowed by, you told us no new wars. You were the peace president. You were pissed that you didn't get a Nobel Peace Prize honor, that you're nominated. You didn't get that, right? And now you're the one that's going to nuke and destroy an entire population. I can't support that. I support you when you're on the side of truth. Can't support you when you're not on the side of truth. Any other things, guys?
Onward and upward.
Onward and upward.
Onward and upward. I want to say that I think it may be that the last chance for traditional political solutions was with the great Ron Paul, and even then it was a low probability. I mean, he was cheated, but I think we had earned the right for him to go through be nominated at the convention and the speeches and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But even if it had worked out the way we wanted it to do, and he had gotten elected, there would have been so many obstacles in his way because the system is growing so large.
Yeah.
And so we have a Leviathan state.
It's a huge bureaucracy that I don't know how you defeat it without its collapse.
They would have sabotaged him like they did Trump.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So that would have happened too. But I do believe that some of the things that we see as the problems financially, that we may have to go through the crucible. Unfortunately, there's going to be likely some very difficult times coming ahead, and that might be necessary for there to be whether it's necessary or not, it just might be happening because there's no way to change this. This math doesn't work out. And with all the enmity that's been sowed overseas and all the special interests that are so firmly entrenched here, we just got to stick with first principles, the principles of the Bible, the principles of the Declaration of Independence, and all the great men and women of liberty who enunciated things, James Otis Jr., Mercy Otis Warren. There are so many of them that come to mind, and we can't name them all right now. But we are blessed to have this legacy. We are probably cursed for not defending it as we ought to have, but we still have the opportunity to do so, and so we should do that, as Ron Paul and the 10th Amendment Center and other great organizations suggest.
Amen. Amen.
And praise to the Lord, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Amen. Do you think that, wouldn't it be cool if we just wiped out the entire bureaucracy and went back to the Constitution?
Nuke the bureaucracy?
Is
that what you're saying?
No, I was saying you're fired.
Okay.
Well,
We'll talk later about other solutions.
They've got the guns, and this is one reason why Patrick Henry he spoke out against the ratification of the Constitution. He couldn't have foreseen this, but he foresaw something along these lines, that there would be this imbalance of
Right. Or we had Joe Biden threaten all of us saying,
Yeah.
Are you going to stand there with your guns? Okay, great. I got to have 16. I don't remember how I did. It was pretty retarded when he said it because he's
mumbled it out and bumbled and stumbled it out.
We got. Listen, come on, man. We got. But this dynamic of, if you could wipe out the bureaucracy, and wipe out all of the extemporaneous legislation and start from day one, with the Constitution and the 10 Amendments, the Bill of Rights. If you could do that overnight and just start from scratch. Would that be phenomenal?
or go back to the Articles of Confederation.
Make the Articles great again.
Ooh.
That's the good AOC.
Yeah, yeah. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Gypsy Magic, you've been awesome, blowing up the chat, and as well as the rest of them. Dale, always a favorite in there, and of course we can't forget Baron, because Baron's typically on here. But love you guys. Like, share, and subscribe. Do all of that stuff. Hit the thumbs up on there. Appreciate you guys going with us. 3 hours and
3.5 hours.
3.5 hours of hanging with us and enjoying good conversation. We appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you guys on Tuesday. A lot of you tuning in to the regular Tuesday show. And then Sunday, this coming Sunday, actually, I think we have 2 shows this coming week. I think we have a Thursday show and a Saturday show. And then Dennis, I don't know when you're going to be back, but no, Shane is lining up some more guests. We're going to try to get you. Shane's working on trying to be here at least a couple times a month, bi-monthly.
Oh, that sounds great.
He's going to try to be here, but we want to get
Semi-monthly?
Dennis. Yeah, we want to get Dennis back here on a regular basis because we love him and he's a wealth of information. If you haven't sat down with this guy and broke bread, your list in the words of
Dennis Marburger, the most intelligent man on the Michigan Republican State Committee by far.
hell yeah, and in the words of what the hell is this? From Few Good Men. Few Good Men. No, Few Good Men. Jack Nicholson. In the words of Jack Nicholson, if you haven't, he said it. But listen, you're just letting the best in life pass you by. If you haven't sat with Dennis Marburger and heard him talk, because he's extremely humble and awesome.
And if you don't like what Dennis Marburger has to say, you can't handle the truth.
Can't handle the truth. Did you last year at the Washington Day dinner? What was the award you received?
Oh, the Defender of Liberty Award from Shane.
I believe it was the Liberty Lifetime Achievement Award.
Well, that was very kind, undeserved. But I say thank you. I say thank you very much. I do have something else I need to say though. I want to.
All right, go.
Because we talked a little bit about. We did talk about the genocide for a while, but I do want to mention. It's very important that we should never forget, and there are many examples of this, but I particularly want to mention, because we're just past April 24th, the sanctified Armenian martyrs of the Turkish genocide, the Azerbaijani genocide, and also the Assyrians and Greeks, the other Christians. So for all those people who have been genocided by the Turkish and Azerbaijani genocidal axis of evil, I remember them, and I particularly remember my Armenian ancestors and my family and the other families that we were all associated with. And we thank the Lord for all the blessings that we get from Armenian culture and Armenian faith. And we thank the Lord for the blessings of our families being able to get here to America. As my Armenian grandfather, Haji, said, he was Haji because he was the pilgrim, the first from Karpat to come here.
Right.
He said, Saki, America's the greatest country on earth, but the politicians are all a bunch of blank crooks. And so God bless America, God bless Armenia, and all praises to the Lord.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate that. Guys, with that, like, share, subscribe. We will catch you on the flip side, which will be Tuesday. Love you all. We're out of here.
This is my brain.
Dad, that's an egg.
Yeah, that's an egg.
Honey,
Dude.
that's an egg.
Seriously.
That's an egg.
It's a metaphor.
It's still an egg.
That's an egg.
I would challenge you.
That's an egg.
I know my brain is not actually an egg, okay? It's a metaphor.
Metaphor or not, that's not your brain.
It's just an egg.
Una cerveza para mí. My egg is my brain.
Can I at least have some bacon, maybe some sausage with that egg, though?
Oh, I want some bacon.
I want crepes.
Have some bacon and pancakes with that egg.
I'll take it with cheese.
Extra large brown cage-free eggs.
Can I have your brain with hot cakes?
A little sausage and a little toast and potato.
That would be great.
Does it have antibiotics?
I don't know, man. I'm not good at this shit.
Well, they gotta be able to resist some diseases.
You resist the disease.
Has it got any hormones?
Maybe. It's cage free.
Vegetarian?
Maybe.
Are they vegan?
No, I eat steak.
Never apologize and never explain.
Never apologize.
Never apologize and never explain.